Of April 16, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all your cell phones. Could everybody please stand for a salute to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Here.
Councilman Oman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Approval of minutes, December 18, 2017, public meeting minutes, December 18, 2017, conference meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bruno.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Abstain. And Mr. Cumming has
yes,
to change his
I'm
also.
sorry.
to abstain.
So sorry.
Yes, change that to an abstain. I
Yes.
shame on me. Yeah, thank you.
Approval of minutes for the March 5th, 2018 budget meeting minutes, the March 12th, 2018 special meeting minutes for the budget, the March 17th, 2018 special meeting minutes budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes,
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Mayor appointments for directors with advice and consent to council. Appointment of finance director. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Whereas the mayor has appointed the person listed below as director of the department listed below, subject, I'm sorry. But please be advised that I'm appointing Judith Curran to the position of Director of Finance effective immediately and for a 4-year term commencing April 16, 2018, subject to having received your advice and consent, which I hereby respectfully request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I have a motion for resolution number 18-195, appointment of Director of Finance, Judith Curran?
so moved.
Motion by Mr. Cumming. Any second on that? Anyone? No second. Moving on, appointment to the Fire Department, membership application for Bruce S. Roberts Jr., Township of Washington Volunteer Fire Department. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes,
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Membership application for Asasi Shalom, Township of Washington Volunteer Fire Department. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, sir.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
yes,
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. The oath of office will be administered by the mayor. Can Mr. Robertson, Mrs. Shalom step up, please? Mr. Shalom.
Since there's only 2, we will do them separate, so you each have. So raise your right hand, put the left hand on the Bible. I state your name.
I, Sasi Shalom,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and the
and
Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and and I will obey the truth
true faith, and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in the state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
and I do solemnly swear
And I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will be faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Volunteer Fire Department
the Volunteer Fire Department
in the Township of Washington,
in the Township of Washington,
in the County of Bergen,
the County of Bergen,
in the State of New Jersey,
and the State of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I
I, Bruce Roberts Jr.,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and
and
allegiance
allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
and that I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties as a member of
all duties as a member of
the Volunteer Fire
the
Department
Volunteer Fire Department
in the Township of
in the
Washington,
Township of
in
Washington,
the County of Bergen,
in the County of Bergen,
in the State of New Jersey,
State of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Done with it, right?
Moving on, motion to open the public discussion, please.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to come up and address the mayor and council at this time? Sure, Mrs. Osmond.
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I really don't have much to say because I'd really like you to get to your conference session. It's a very aggressive conference session, and I think this is one of the greatest things I've seen in an awfully long time. I just hope that the council gets answers to all of these questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Could you please come up and speak into the mic, please?
Joe Durso, 12 Viola Terrace, Washington Township. How are you guys? Congratulations.
Mr. Durso.
I think you guys did a great job on the budget this year. Something struck my interest last week, one of your budget meetings. Something that's been, a hot topic for a lot of years, since 2011. I seen some numbers were thrown around that last year, outside this dispatching. I seen that it was discussed. I just wanted to ask a few questions and bring some points. The one question that was asked by Councilman Bruno, something that I was trying to get for a long time. Do you guys have anything where the separation of overtime is out of the salary item now? Because for years it was separated. Salary line item for police, overtime, is that separated? Is it all still in one line item?
No, it's separated, Mr. Bruno.
Separated.
It's
And
separated.
do you have, so the figure, so the figure for, what was the figure for the police overtime for last year?
So, Joe, just so you understand, I want to say, don't quote me, I want to say it was about 252,000, 257,000, I'm not sure.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it was actually more like 280 plus.
280 plus. So what we received this year from Captain Hackbarth was a schedule of overtime pay broken into umpteen different categories. So it was a little difficult to try and understand exactly why these categories were there, but they were. And then this year, they presented another number, and just to cut to the chase, we had looked at I don't want to take up your time, we had looked at the dispatch, and we added dispatch, and we reduced the overtime, but it was difficult to say how much of dispatch money was put in overtime, or how much of overtime was incurred because of excess sick time. So we did receive a number, and we tried to reduce it accordingly.
Okay, so the number that I heard Lieutenant Calamari quote was 109,000 was spent for dispatch last year, in 2017. So pretty much every other hour, I mean, I broke it down, I have my numbers, but basically every other hour was, so you're saying 200 plus or $300,000 was on that desk for a police officer was on there on overtime. That's, but you don't really have.
Not on the desk, Mr. Durso. That's,
No?
that is not, no, that includes details for, you know, the
But do you
the
have-
special details. Yes, we have that broken
Okay,
down.
but so now that's good. So then do you have, do you know who's working that desk at all times?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right.
But the statement, if I understood your statement correctly, was that you're attributing all of it to the desk, where that.
Just so
Okay,
we understand.
that's fine.
No, that's why I want to
That's-
clarify.
that's good to
No, I
hear.
know, but I think the 280, I don't want to take
The
Joe's
280
time.
number includes
So
a
just-
bunch of numbers.
No,
that-
but it doesn't include the outside services, because that's a separate number.
Correct.
Yeah, because you had outside special
It's a
things.
separate number.
Separate numbers coming in. So, all right, so basically, you know, I heard the conversation, you're looking towards a Pittman schedule for dispatching, which is great. You know, it's been going on since, and I know hands were tied for a lot of years. This outside dispatching has been in place since 2014, and that's great. So do you guys feel that you're going to move forward with hiring a fourth dispatcher? I mean, I see the rate, basically what it comes out to, as Lieutenant Calamari said, it's going to be like $250,000 a year, which for us to man our desk. But that doesn't include benefits, overtime,
That is correct.
vacations, because, I mean, how does that, factor in?
Excuse me, it does include overtime and vacations, Joe.
It does?
That 250 number does.
And just for clarification, the numbers were bothering me last meeting, and when I went back, the rate that was used for the part-time dispatcher was overstated.
Yeah, he had like
It's
$27 an hour.
It's $27.21. It's actually $21.22, which is.
Again, if I could just stop there. These numbers were given to us at the last minute after 4 months of working on a budget. And now to hear that the numbers have errors in them, it's very disheartening to me, because we're trying to do something good for the town. And if we don't have the right information in front of us, how are we supposed to make a decision? You know, here we are, if the information was incorrect last week, and we're finding, well, 2 weeks ago was incorrect, we're just finding out about it tonight. So how are we supposed to make an informed
It was 1
decision?
week ago.
Here, let me talk, Mary Ann, because I'm the president here, not you. You know, this is a big hot topic item in our town. And when we're being told we're going to spend $250,000 on this, I find it's very disheartening, because that $250,000, if it's not $250,000, what is the true number? And to find out about it, you know, now that we're using incorrect, you know, Mr. Calamari did a great job putting it together, put a lot of effort into it. But again, it doesn't include benefits, it doesn't include pension payments, all kinds of stuff in there. So that $250,000, even if we drop it to 200, it's still gonna be about 300 when we add benefits and everything to it. And that's a lot for this town to swallow, to have 4 dispatchers on a desk. You know, and still continue on the avenue of having $250,000 plus of overtime every year. Because we've just added $300,000 to the budget, and it hasn't, there's no correlation between reducing overtime and the dispatcher desk. And that's what I'd like to see. And Mr. Durso, to answer your question, I'm sorry we're taking up your time, and you are out of time. But I'll give you an extra minute, because we took up some of your time.
I'm pretty, I guess my numbers are,
But the problem is, you know, this is an important decision, and here we are, we were presented with a nice thing, and to find out tonight that we're already changing the numbers in it, you know, the council's wasting their time up here if we don't have the right numbers. And I ask for every citizen in the township, can we have the right numbers, please, so we could review it and make a decision, because it's an important decision that's going to affect every ratepayer in the Township of Washington for years to come forward. And I'd like to get it done because, to me, it's an important thing. It's one of the reasons I ran for election. I support having the police desk, the dispatch desk here, but there's got to be a cost where, you know, we need to know what that cost is, Mr. Mayor, and that's all I ask.
And since you took a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask when Mr. Durso's done that I get a couple of minutes to respond.
I'm not quite sure if the mayor should recuse himself from police conversations along with Councilman Cumming. I mean, it's, you know, at this point, I just don't get it, quite honestly.
would you
But go
please say
ahead,
this
if you
for the
want some
umpteenth
minutes, go
time?
ahead. You're the mayor.
Well, you give me 1 minute. so
I'll give you an extra minute.
I've been, since 2011, I know there was a lot of deals on the table with the county, which, when I was involved, we went up there, Councilman Cassio, another former councilman, and, it looked great. I get, everybody likes, home rule and everything's in-house, but we're becoming, a novelty here. It's like every other town does this. A lot all over the state do it. I get the whole thing. You feel comfortable with a police officer on that desk at certain times. I get that, but it's a lot of money. I know Westwood years ago we lost that deal because the former mayor just didn't agree with it, and as much as I didn't like it, I respect it just as much as the new mayor probably doesn't like it. I still respect it. I don't agree with it, but the point is you have a set cost over there, and I'm sure I'll get rebuttal that you have to update your radio equipment and all that good stuff, but you still have a set cost. You don't. You have, I'm sure this figure is way higher from Westwood than it was 5 years ago, which we could have locked in. I believe, I have the contracts at home, but it was $150,000 a year progressive for 5 years. I mean,
I don't have those numbers, Mr.
and that's
Durso,
me. I'd have to show it to you, but I'm just saying you got to lock in a cost at one point, and you really need to keep the police officers off the road, which I get, and that's what they're trying to do. But it's still a lot of money. But I'm disheartened that you don't have the right numbers either. So thank you for your time.
Mayor?
Sure, Mr. Mayor.
It's okay, Mr. Powell?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I didn't come to discuss the budget tonight, but since everyone is bringing it up, and there's a lot of, in my opinion, misinformation being put out, I'm going to set the record straight how I see it. Westwood might have given us a good deal X years ago. That's in the past. Westwood's new agreement averages $260,000+ over 3 years. That's their latest proposal to us. We're not adding $300,000 to the budget for civilian dispatchers. $170 was asked for, and $155 is what's in there. So they're asking for another $150. So I hate when people say we're adding $300. We're not adding $300. We're adding the difference between what's approved and what was being asked for. So again,
So, Mr. Mayor, is it fair to say that what was asked for was just their hourly rate?
I didn't break it down as to what was asked
Well,
for.
the breakdown that was presented to us, that includes only their hourly rate. It doesn't include their benefits and all the other perks that go along with it.
Okay.
So if the
But
average family plan, I'm not saying they all take it, if the average state family plan is $20,000 to $25,000 and we're picking up most of that cost, if there's 4 of them, we could be picking up anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000 a year on top of the $170, which puts you at $250. And then there's all kinds of state taxes and stuff and federal taxes that we need to pay out of our own
Okay.
share, and workman's comp and all
Okay.
that. And that just starts to equate, and that's the rationale behind the number that was said. And that is my rationale.
Are we going to have a back and forth that can last a half hour here?
No, we're gonna
or-
stop. We're gonna stop.
Oh, no, I'm not done yet. You interrupted me. I'm not done yet.
I'd like to make a comment when you're done.
It's the president's meeting to run.
Good.
Well, I think.
No, I'd like to make a
I
comment
don't
when
think
it's
he needs
done.
Dr. Cassio's help. He could make a decision all by himself.
Mr. Mayor.
Getting nasty now, huh? I'd like to make a comment. May I make a comment? First of all, you're the mayor. You
I
should
am.
come prepared to speak about the budget every meeting, number one. Number two,
memorize every
you
line item in the
presented a
budget
budget.
Now, it's
Can
a
I
back and
talk?
forth between me and Mr. Bruno. You're happy to let that go?
Can I
I'm fine
talk
with it.
here, Ken, can you, first of all, let me have a conversation.
Public session.
It's a public
Yeah,
session.
why
Okay.
don't we at least get the public session over with?
Okay, that's fine,
And
all
then if
right,
you-
but
and then
I
if
just
you-
want to make sure that, you know,
Would anybody else like to come up and
you
address
come
the
here,
council?
you present the budget every night, doesn't matter when it
Mr.
is.
Bruno, let's let the public address the meeting. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing nobody, may I have a motion to?
There's a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Sorry. Good evening.
Good.
So, my name is
Your
Robert.
your
My
name
name is
and-
Robert Kovacs. I live in Township in Celia Court, and I was here last week, just
What's your address?
801 Celia Court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a very quick question. I own a bakery in Lodi, and we are doing a lot of farmers markets all over the state. I was here last week inquiring whether the town would be interested in getting a farmers market in town. And I was instructed by a lady to come to the meeting tonight, so that's why I'm here.
Oh.
I was told that it was,
Do you have a-
one was held like 3-4 years ago. I don't know what was the reason why it was discontinued.
Do you represent a group that
I
would present it?
represent nobody.
You represent yourself?
So what we are doing right now, through the bakery,
Mm-hmm.
as a business entity, we are participating in Rochelle Park's farmers market, which is being set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm most likely going to be the farmers market liaison, which means managing the market for the town. And because we don't have one here, and because I'm a township president, I would be very interested in kind of, organizing one. But I was told that this is, a matter of the decision for the council to make.
Okay.
Well, would you be able to provide us some information for so we could review it, Mr. Kovac? You have like a packet you can give us or something so we can
I
review
mean,
it?
I can put something very similar together that what Rochelle Park has, and what I bring to the table is access to vendors. So if the township gives it a go-ahead, then, it's easy to.
Yeah, if you could put something together so we could review it, that'd be
And
great.
who is the communication partner to this, or who do I communicate
Mary Ann, it
with?
would be through Mary Ann.
Mary Ann?
See that?
Well, how does that work? The council's going to be entertaining?
Mike-
I know from personal experience, I ran a farmer's market in my hometown for 3 years. It's a lot of work. If you want to deliver the information, I'll pass it on. But it's,
Well, I'm
getting
just- I'm just
farmers
asking
is tough.
what's the process of finding a spot for it, or approving it, or disapproving it, or giving it a go-ahead? I'm like, that's,
Do we have anything on our ordinance that would prevent it?
I think you're getting ahead of yourself. Why don't you find out who he represents, what he's talking about, and let's get to the administrator. She can get the information to Sue to give to the council and to the mayor, and then that will be the first time it'll be looked at. But you're starting out today, you can't start from the
Yeah.
back end, you have to
No,
start from the
absolutely.
front end, so.
Yeah.
So if you could put together something and get it.
Just get it to the
Mrs. Grout.
administrator, and she'll take care of circulating it.
okay, perfect, and then she'll be getting back to me on this.
Somebody will get back to you.
Okay.
Whether it's you, whether it's the administrator, whether it's the clerk, somebody will get back to you.
Okay, perfect, so I'll find your email address and,
Yes. Yes. I mean, please include everybody who you think would want to participate the day of the week, because that's all critical.
okay.
It's hard to find them, farmers who are not otherwise occupied.
That's one of the benefits, like I understand that it's kind of difficult to get, quality vendors together, but because we are participating in so many other markets with the bakery, I would bring the bakery here, and then I would source or invite other vendors,
Okay.
farmers.
The one in Rochelle Park, may I ask, the one in Rochelle Park, when do you anticipate that starting?
I believe they're starting sometime in June.
Okay.
Typically markets.
Mr. Kovac, if you could put together, if you could, we gotta move
Gotta get
on.
going.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Allen, I didn't mean-
Okay.
All right, I will put the information together
Okay.
for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing nobody, do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinance adoption on second reading, ordinance number 18-03, an ordinance under Chapter 55 of the Code of the Township of Washington, setting forth the rate of compensation and manner of payment of employees for the year 2018. Resolution number 18-196, authorized second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance 1803. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to close public hearing for ordinance.
You have to, you opened it, so they have to have it.
Oh,
Thought you closed it.
No, he opened it on 18-196, and now you're opening it up, and if anybody wants to come up and address the council, and then you close it.
would anybody like to come up and address the council on ordinance, resolution number 18-196 at this time? Mrs. Osmond?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. The only thing I have to say about the salary ordinance is, for so many years, it's been suggested that it be a minimum and a maximum. And I'm sure this council has done this before, or at least some of the members of this council has in prior years. I think it would help the town with hiring of employees when you can't get somebody in that specific, because it's usually 90% of the time, the salary is the salary. I mean, yes, I know it says, well, that's not, but it is true. The salary that you're looking at is the salary. If it was a minimum and a maximum, I think it would help the township in hiring people. So just as a suggestion, please, again, I think last year I was here for the exact same thing. Can I ask one more question? Who actually does the salary ordinance?
Puts it together?
Yeah.
I actually did it, although I'm trying to find if someone else would do it, but no.
No, I'm sorry, but in prior years, the clerk did it. I did that salary ordinance for many years. The clerk before me did the salary ordinance for many years. It was the job of the clerk. And I mean, it's obvious that they're all 1.5%. And I know you're discussing different ways of giving, because I always thought it was very unfair when I had worked here as a part-timer, and, you know, we always got the same, everybody in town hall got the same 1, 2, back in those years it was 3, 4% actually. And if you give 3% on a salary that's $25,000, and you give 3% on a salary that's $60,000, there's a lot of difference about what the salary increase is and what, you know, the money is. So, you know, I see you have it in your, you know, list of conference, and I think it's important to discuss that too. Because giving everybody, you know, somebody at $100,000 is making a lot more than somebody who's making, I see in the salary ordinance, $25,000. Well, $25,000, 1.5% is nothing. And, you know, I complained about that for all those years, and then I became clerk, and I was making the extra because I was making more money, but still, it was very difficult. So I think it's fair for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osmond. Would anybody else like to come up and discuss the salary?
Joe Durso, 12 Viola. One question on the salary ordinance. Is the ongoing, have you ever gotten a ruling from the IRS on the attorney's salary? Whether he can be a salary employee or a, it's been so long, I forgot the other term for it, whether he can bill back the town for extra money.
There is no extra money to build back the town.
1099, that's what it is.
That's what it is? So then you have, did you ever get an IRS ruling?
No.
I've never seen it.
So so in 7 years, we haven't gotten an IRS ruling,
Joe.
decent.
I call every 5 months, 4 months.
So,
You're not
okay,
gonna-
all
You're not
right,
going to get a ruling from the IRS.
all right, that's fine. Just, all right, so now it's settled then. So you have he's no longer a contractual employee, he's just a salary employee. Anybody?
I will defer to Mr. Bruno on this one because
So, the way I understand it, the attorney receives a salary, which was 70-some odd thousand, and then there were additional billings, which was the blue voucher system. And our auditor last year said that basically all the billings other than salary should be treated as salary. So there were no longer any bills that should come through, which were coming through at I think, $135 an hour, I'm not sure. that all that money was put in as salary now, so.
Okay.
So
That is-
it's still a little not clear, but everything that the attorney has salary, which is salary, plus outside billings, all goes into salary now.
So then he's still allowed to bill us, technically it's contractual.
If it's in the salary ordinance, he's allowed to bill us.
So then what
No,
is?
excuse me, can I jump in? I mean, you've taken...
This is my time. I didn't really, listen, I'm just gonna walk away. I'm not getting an answer. So technically you're
We
saying.
don't have an IRS answer, Mr. Garza.
Well, and then, so basically for all these years, the salary is being paid. I know there was a pension for a lot of years. I know there was medical for a lot of years, and there was bill backing as a contractual employee. So right now you're telling me it's no longer a contractual employee. Whatever you guys did an analysis on what was the town's expenses, it's all in his salary now. That's what you're saying. So it's $70-something thousand a year. So that's fine then. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and discuss resolution number 18-196? Only the salary ordinance, Ms. Callaghan.
With regard to, John Calamari, 99 President Road. Pardon my appearance, I just came from the gym, and I just heard that with regard to the salary ordinance, that the dispatch salaries was in that ordinance. And with regard to the dispatch salaries themselves, with regard to the numbers that were presented last week, the numbers on the sheet that I gave you guys last week are totally and completely accurate. I can tell you that the numbers for the only error was the number with the part-time dispatcher's hours. They reflect $27.21 per hour. That was a number that was gotten off of the town ordinance with regard to the 2017 ordinance with regard to salaries. Sorry, again, just coming from the gym, I apologize. That apparently is the maximum rate, and that's why I use the maximum rate
So it's the worst case
for
scenario.
presuming, exactly, for budgeting purposes. Because I would presume, and perhaps I shouldn't have, that that's what you guys would have to budget, which is kind of an outside cost to cover the whole thing. With regard to the plan itself, the $204,225, that was a total number that did cover everything overtime for all time off that would have to be taken by the...
204,
Correct.
225?
For the dispatchers, that would cover their full salary plus any overtime or part-time that would have to be covered as a result of them taking time off. It provides for 24/7, 365 coverage. And again, I just wanted to clarify that because I know the numbers were being batted around before, and I just want to make sure that they're accurate. As I had said, anyone who wants to talk to me, about the numbers themselves, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to come in and talk. Like I said, I'm not
So the
working,
number
this
is
is on my time.
204, 225, not 170.
Correct, that's the total.
That's the number I was, okay. Just
Yeah,
wanna make sure.
that's the total that would need to be budgeted for a full year. And if you look, I even broke down that.
And that is the actual hourly rate only, that doesn't include benefits and all that other, and all the fringe benefits that go along with it. That is just pure Pittman. Time, yeah,
Correct.
that's,
Yeah,
and that's what we
that's just what I wanted to
discussed.
clarify.
Okay.
And if I don't know if anyone has it in front of them, I actually broke it down by the full-time dispatchers' base salaries, which would be roughly 160 for 4 at 40,000 each. And then
The 140,
I would suggest that a separate line item for part-time dispatchers and/or full-time dispatchers overtime be a separate line item, and to cover that would be $45,000.
Which
So
puts you
again,
at
that
the
204 was
204.
for the full number of hours. Like I said, I just wanted to make, obviously, and like I had said last week, benefits would have to be added onto that. With regard to with police officers staffing the desk, I'm going to speak to the chief about this week attempting to, I won't be able to find out exactly who worked the desk and when. I didn't get to speak to him today. I'm going to ask him tomorrow if I can go through the schedule, because I know it's a number you guys want, and it's a number you guys should have. How many times a police officer, how many shifts a police officer staffed the desk, based on last year when we had 2 full-time dispatchers, now we have a 3rd full-time dispatcher. They're working 8-hour shifts because that's, again, feasible with that. But it's a number that I understand, a lot of you guys want, and for good reason, because you do have to factor in overtime and, all those other factors. And I totally respect that. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure that.
Will the new scheduling software assist you in that?
It would absolutely. It would be a
So
huge asset.
we did budget for the new scheduling software.
Yeah, that-
so once that's implemented,
Yeah,
then.
it still would not provide for the actual officer himself.
No,
yeah.
but it'll give you the breakdown you're
Absolutely.
discussing.
I'm hoping, again, that we go to full-time dispatch and it would obviate that, but it would absolutely be a huge benefit. Any software, any scheduling software would be a huge benefit. So again, thank you guys, for listening, for taking the time. And like I said, I just wanted to clarify those numbers. I don't want them to be misconstrued or anything like that. And I can't encourage you guys enough. It's a tough thing to comprehend. Please reach out to me if you want a more detailed explanation or anything like that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, Mr. Bruno.
So, Lieutenant, the schedule that you presented, whenever it was very detailed, and I appreciate it. Quite honestly, I didn't understand it. But my schedule is, I do a lot of traveling, but I will reach out to you, hopefully within the next week or so, because I think it's an important factor, and there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. Now we hear that they're not right, they are right. So I would like to sit with you and try and understand exactly what it is you presented. And I would also like to sit with you and see what Westwood presented, because the numbers are close, but I think we have to factor everything. So
Absolutely.
as soon as I understand my schedule, I'll reach out to you, and we'll spend an hour or so, and I'll let the council president know, and however it works.
I plan on sitting with Mr. Calamari also.
Okay, so that's
If you
fine.
guys want to meet together, I know there are issues with numbers and stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that,
that's fine.
but
Okay.
yeah, please do, and I appreciate it. Thank you very
did
much.
a detailed schedule, and I appreciate it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
on.
It took me a while.
Yeah, okay.
And my schedule's flexible,
Okay.
work-wise or off-time,
That's
I'm
fine.
always around. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Anything else, gentlemen, on that? Anybody else like to come up and speak to the council regarding resolution number 18-196? Seeing nobody, do I have a motion to close?
Close motion?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 18-03 at second reading by title. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. Individual resolutions, there are none tonight. Consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 18-197, authorize tonnage grant application and designate recycling coordinator for said application. Resolution 18-198, authorize advertisement for bids for basketball court improvements. Resolution 18-199, approve T&M Associates as township planner for affordable housing planning services and housing element and fair share plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So I just have 2 questions, if I may. Marion, on the basketball court, haven't we gone out to bid already on this stuff, or no?
No,
No? Okay, I thought we were done.
Did we go out for the improvements at the park, the handicap? Didn't we get a grant?
Yeah, we got a grant, but we just got the grant. I don't think it's designed
no.
yet.
There's some time sensitivity to the basketball courts because we have a looming deadline. But we will be going out to bid on various other things, just trying to get things going, getting a breather after the budget process.
Okay.
And what exactly is the 18-199?
What are you referring to? Oh, 18, oh, that's the resolution you're referring to. I think that's Mr. Pollar's. That's the T&M.
Oh, it's what you approved the last meeting.
Was there?
Was there COA number?
Oh, this was the contract number?
That's correct.
Yes.
Anything?
No, that's it.
Yes, Mr. Allen.
Just, I know this COA is this is regarding litigation, but do we believe, and I know we've been down this road, but do we believe that this is the end of this road regarding this matter?
Court never ends.
That's true.
Come on.
That's true.
No, I don't think that's quite
So
correct.
we have there's Franklin Court. This is related to that litigation. There was a issue with their initial plan that required the township as well as the developer to go back and revisit aspects of the plan. My understanding is this is to represent that amended plan, and this is the cost to present that plan and do the associated administrative work, for lack of a better term, to bring that plan to closure. Is that a correct assessment?
It's a plan to mediate the open issue regarding Franklin Court. It does not include any litigation per se. It includes all of the administrative steps once, if, and when the resolution is agreed upon with the court master and with Franklin Court, to go through the steps of getting planning board approval for the new amendment, drafting up the documents, going to the court on a fairness, on a compliance hearing, finishing the spending plan, and it's delineated pretty extensively and completely in the proposal. And this is the number, and if you look at the last page, it's a not to exceed 12,000. And no further work would be done unless we came back. And the caveat there would be is if they come up with a plan that is not acceptable to you or is not acceptable to the court master for whatever reason, then if litigation would ensue, then there would be a new proposal to address that. But this is to hopefully address the open issue on a mediation basis right now with the work outlined in the letter. It was voted on last time. This is just a confirming resolution. This is nothing, it's not new. It was voted on last time, but I know you weren't here.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Chairman to conference agenda, gentlemen, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under conference agenda for April 16, 2018, administration, we have the project tracker. Marion, anything to track on the project tracker?
I haven't had a chance to get that back up and running. Just, again, just trying to get my desk clear after the budget, and then, you know, there's...
Anything on the doors? Do we have,
No, unfortunately, well, we're at a, we do have the information for the doors, but there's 3 projects that are currently in limbo because the insurance proceeds have not been put into the escrow. What the amount that was in the escrow has been depleted, and I've asked the CFO to handle that, and it has not yet happened.
so once that happens, the flooring, the doors and all that will proceed?
Flooring, doors, and the window in the tax office
Will be
can all
repaired.
happen. They're all just waiting for an account to charge to.
Do we have an ETA when she's going to create that account?
I don't know what the holdup is. I've asked her a couple of times. I think she needs to understand, because this is one of the things that money came in a while ago, so the odds, why wouldn't it already be in the account ready to tap? Why was it segregated? She just needs to make sure there's no strings attached, so to speak.
Okay. I guess you'll need some time to review the green purchasing ordinance from the March meeting that was presented by the green team.
Well, actually, I took a look at it today. I was surprised when I saw it on the agenda because I didn't ask for it to be on, but I know Sue's trying to be diligent and keep things moving. The green team, I guess, had approached her about it, or a member of, or members of. Frankly, that is, I can't get the time to look at that for a while. It's just gonna have to wait for a little bit. And then I'll try to take a look at it. I mean, frankly, if the council wants to move forward with it, it's an ordinance. You have freedom to adopt it if you want, regardless of how I feel. There are things that have to be plugged in on who's going to be monitoring and things like that. Right now, just, there's a lot on my plate with, we're low staff. We have low, our staff is, some people have had to reduce their hours and things, so just trying to get up to speed on more of the bigger projects. So I'd like to just defer it for a while unless someone on the council wants to spearhead it, like I said.
It's waited this long, it could wait.
Yeah, okay.
Why are there staffing reductions or time?
I don't want to get into it too much, but somebody needed an accommodation in the purchasing department, and we did have another resignation.
Who's that?
The gentleman who agreed to take on the superintendent role in recreation received an offer for a full-time position for a job that he had applied for a long time ago. He's working through the end of the month, but it's just, I feel like I'm treading water.
Ann's replacement?
Yes.
Wasn't he gonna become full-time with the 2 spots?
He did, but
Oh,
it's
he did
not,
become
he
full-time.
did become full-time, he was excited to get it, and lo and behold, a week later, he received an offer on an application he had submitted 6 months to a year ago for, it sounded like his dream job, so
Good for him.
can't argue with that. And
So we
he's-
advertising to replace the 2 positions?
Yes,
It says one-
we're
but will it
trying
be
to
one
figure
person?
out, we're trying to figure things out. We have somebody who we hired in tax assessor's office who's looking to pick up hours. So we're just trying to figure things out. And again, we're trying to get our bearings on what the best mix is for everybody. But even still, I mean, there's a ton of other things that come before the green purchasing orders. I've got a project to review grant balances and try to cancel out some things. So
Okay.
again, I think it's a valuable prospect. It's not my first time hearing of it. I studied it in my QPA class, but
All right, we'll move
maybe after I study for the QPA exam, I'll be looking at it and I can look at it, at the same time to be cost effective.
Has the engineer and DMF prepared the 2018 road program street listings? Of what streets we anticipate on paving?
They are working on it. I've asked Paul to try and come up with an approximate price also to see how much extra we save or don't save, depending on how you look at it, as opposed to moving equipment around to concentrate on clusters of town, as opposed to keeping the program that was in place to tackle the worst roads first. So I've also asked him as part of that to come up with an approximate cost so we can analyze if we want to go with the cluster or still stay with the worst roads first.
On that note, just so you know, Peter and I had met with Paul about that, but also in the past, Michael, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, we were able to adopt the bond ordinance to get the road program going without having a specific list of roads. That gives you the township, the most flexibility. As long as you commit the dollar amount, you can reference the road program without having a specific list in place. So the idea being to introduce the multipurpose ordinance at the next meeting to get that first reading. So that's one of the first steps in the process as well. So that can run parallel to Paul identifying the roads.
Put the list of necessary items for the next meeting.
I think Paul should have enough time before the next meeting to look at the existing list of worst roads and have that list for us at the next meeting, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
No problem.
Can we also, I'm sorry to interrupt, can we also, Mary Ann, on the track, have a list of open positions now? Because it seems like people are dropping like flies, and I'm not really sure what's open and what's not open, but you made a comment that you're treading water, which means you don't have help. So could you let us know, where we're lacking, please?
Okay.
Thank
I mean, I'm a little bit leery about putting personnel matters on a tracker because
I
of the
just want,
sensitive
it's just
nature of it.
positions, all I want to know is positions. We've had DMF superintendent, we've had positions on before, so dispatch, et cetera.
Okay.
Are we advertising for those open positions, Marion?
Well, that's the thing. I can't even get the time to write ads. Just give me a
The one you're
weekend.
talking about literally just came up
Yeah,
also.
yeah. So
Okay.
let me just,
All right.
I'm gonna plan to tackle it this week.
The last thing on administration is the open space grant application, letter of intent due April 24, 2018. Do we have a project that we're going after for that?
I'll let the mayor speak to that, if it's okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, in the same meeting that Mary Ann is referencing that we had with Paul Azalina, this came up that we want to put an application in. I've asked the DMF to go to our parks with a member from the senior citizens and a parent to see what recommendations they have for each park to put the grant in for. So that should be happening in the next day or two, hence this tight deadline of April 24th.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Did I miss something?
I'm just concerned, well, if the council wants to have a say, they can't because it's, the letter of intent has to go in prior to the next meeting. And so I don't know if those two projects that we talked about are still the two possibilities. Because I don't know how it worked. In my first year here, we just did the application and you guys went along with it. The following year, there was more interaction. In fact, Michael Ullman had suggested the park course. So we have to do a letter of intent, and then the application is due before the end of June, based on whatever we say in our letter of
Is
intent.
the park course ever going to get built?
Well, we haven't received our approval for it.
Oh, we're still waiting. I thought we had received the approval.
No, that's one that's pending.
Okay.
So, Mayor, do you want to, I mean, just if they had, the two ideas we had were, one was for the senior citizens park, Martini.
Park.
It's
That's
nice,
one by the lake,
nice
correct?
lakefront property. It looks a little neglected.
We don't
There's,
own all that park, right? The Lake Association owns the first 20 feet, if I'm not mistaken?
the waterfront, we wouldn't do
Yeah,
anything with the
okay.
waterfront. So it's a pretty big expanse.
No, it is. No, but I'm just saying
And
we
there's
don't-
been some requests for picnic tables, possibly bocce, since it's a senior park, something, maybe a pavilion of that nature. And then another thing that Mr. Azalina mentioned that goes back a long time, even when he was here before, serving as town engineer, possibly a tot park up on the top of Birch near the border of Hillsdale. Beach? No, he
Beach.
corrected me to say Birch.
Birch?
I said
Oh,
beach,
okay.
and he corrected
Oh,
me
okay.
in an email to say
Oh, okay.
Birch.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Have we had a GIF playground analysis done on all our playgrounds?
They inspect them every year, at least once a year.
All right, just want to make sure.
I think one of the things a couple of years ago, there was the issue of the rubber or whatever, and that was done, and then there was some age-appropriate signs. I
just
think
wanna
we're
make sure that
compliant, I'm not sure if that might be one open matter, I'm not sure. But Michael looks like he wants to say something down there.
Did you say TOT, T-O-T?
Yeah,
Yes.
TOT, like a very low scale, maybe seesaw,
almost 2 to
small
5 or something
jungle
like
gym,
that.
not like one of these expansive, So does anybody have any comments, just so we can absorb any suggestions, comments about those two ideas, or if you have another one?
I think they're both great. A low-intensity activity for seniors. I mean, bocce, I love to play it.
Courts were there years ago in Martini Park. They just weren't maintained.
So
Oh, there was bocce course.
Yeah, they're there. They're still there.
Oh, wow, I was there recently, I didn't see them,
Yeah,
okay.
if you look on the north corner parallel to that property,
Right,
they're there. I mean, you'll see, there used to be the backing boards. Those are gone, and it's just, you can barely
You can
make
see where
out
the cinder is?
where the cinder is, yeah. But it was there at one time.
If we do, we need to order the right cinder now.
And a tot park, anytime we can increase the availability or options for parents and young kids to get out, I think is great. And if that's a underserviced area, then I would say that's also a good idea. I do think we have to come up, though, with I think our facilities, the playground facilities have to move forward a little. I mean, I've gone and visited some cities that have some very progressive designs, equipment and things like that, ground covering. And so I think if we're going to do something, we should try to embrace some current design, modern design.
Right.
Both of those sound good to me.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? All right, moving on. Under council, first item is pedestrian crossings. Mr. Bruno and myself. Mr. Mayor, I'd respectfully ask if we could have Mr. Azzolino review the pedestrian crossing on Washington Avenue. They make these new advanced, I forget the exact name, they're Eagles. You activate
Washington and Pascack?
No, up further where by Mr. Bruno's block, where we talk? Spice, by Spice and Robinwood over there, there's a crosswalk there right at the bottom, right at the crest of the hill. They make these new, TDEC just installed them where a fatality occurred, and it's basically a flashing beacon with lights and sirens on it, and it alerts the motorist that somebody, and it shuts itself off once the allotted amount of time is over, so it would warn people that somebody's in the crosswalk. They're not that expensive.
I believe those are the ones we're looking for. Once the budget gets approved, we have in capital budget, some of them that will flash.
No, there's a different, I know which one you're talking about. This is a different one, but because it's such a dangerous location, it might be something we could have Mr. Azzolino review and see what his thoughts are on that.
Okay.
Mr. Bruno, anything else on that?
No?
Also look at the Washington and Hickory. They have a crosswalk there going, just before you get to the hill going into Westwood.
Yes, sure.
I
Same
think
thing there,
same
probably.
thing there would probably be appropriate as well.
Yeah, they basically flash telling cars to stop, and they're mounted on, they're mounted off the side of the road. They don't overhang the road or anything.
Not to jump ahead, but is this the same thing, number 33, crosswalk line at Spice Drive, or do we want to go out of order and talk about that since we're talking about
Well, the
crosswalks
crosswalk
right
line
now?
is there, Mr. Bruno.
Yeah, but you said it couldn't be done, so.
No, but it's there. I checked on that.
I mean, it would also be nice from Spice to when Madam Mayor was here, she did a white line from Spice to the bus hut. So at least, the residents could walk along the curb there into the bus hut without getting run over.
Okay.
It's a nice line, but this kind of disappeared.
Yeah, that was the shoulder stripe line you're
Yeah.
talking about, right, Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
There was a shoulder stripe line there.
Okay.
I think when they repaved last time, it didn't get put back in.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
No?
Beautification committee plans? Any update on that, Mr. Mayor?
No, when I saw this and the green team plans, jumping to number 8, would you like to schedule them to come in and present their plans?
I think we had, if that could be done, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll work with them. Any preferred meeting, because I know we have, budget coming up, I don't know if so maybe we can come up with a meeting date that you want them here.
Yeah, we'll just, we can discuss that.
Okay.
Employee performance and merit increases, Mr. Bruno?
Well, we had, this has been discussed for years, and I think the mayor was going to speak to Ken as to whether or not this is something that was enforceable, I guess.
Yeah, you can do merit raises. The prohibition applies to, or at least the limitation applies to the tax assessor, chief financial officer, tax collector, and municipal clerk, who cannot get less than the raise that's given to the rest of the municipal employees, so that merit is a little bit circumscribed when it comes to those 4 positions. The other positions are available to give merit raises.
So is it something that, I mean, normally when you give merit raises, they have these not questionnaires, the performance evaluations, and then they get rated, let's just say for argument's sake, 1 to 5, and if you're rated a 1, you get 0. If you get 2, you can get 0 to 3%, and 3, they have these ratings, and then each rating has percentages that relate to the ratings. Is that something we would have to redo and devise for the personnel manuals?
Well, I think the evaluation procedure would have to be set forth in the personnel manual. It'd have to be developed and set forth in the personnel manual, yes.
Okay, but it's not a problem to do though, right?
No.
Well, I can just tell you from my experience that the way the department heads rate is extremely, varies extremely. It boggles me how somebody can get all exceeds expectations. I think, what do you expect? Nothing out of them then if they're exceeding their expectations across the board. So, I would be concerned if it's guaranteed based on what shows up on that, the evaluation, because like I said, some people give it in a way which I think is the way it's to be given. You know, most people, even if they're great employees, your expectation is they're gonna come in, they're gonna do their work every day, they're gonna show up, they're gonna have a great attitude, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, occasionally you have an exceed expectation, but, so I think it's hard when you have different people giving different people giving the evaluation to have what the evaluation says tied to what a percentage is. So it's definitely something to be considered, and there's no reason why we can't do it now, and if that's what we're so inclined to do. So, I mean, there is definitely, you could do it right now, looking at the evaluations and give somebody. Then there's other people that's very hard to evaluate the work because you don't have somebody directly over them, you know, in all facets of their job. So, again, we'd have to proceed slowly on that one.
Yeah, I think it requires a complete overhaul of the evaluations and how we do it. I mean, I agree with you.
It forms what I had done, though. Instead of pigeonholing, they had all the different attributes within a category. Say it's customer responsiveness. That's not one of them, but there's one similar to that.
Yeah.
And it had all these different possibilities, and you were stuck picking, you know, somebody could be 2 out of one column and 3 out of another column, but you were forced to pigeonhole. So I gave overall ratings and took them out of these pigeonholes. So again, it's something that Peter and I can work on.
Yeah, and to that end, what I'd like to do, should we decide to go ahead with it, I think each department head should really attend a class that maybe we give in-house that says how to give evaluations.
Maybe Jeff could provide that.
Or maybe Jeff, yeah. That way they know what to evaluate people on, and it's not, you know, 10 different department heads evaluating 10 different things. And second is, I'd like to but at my next mayor's meeting and at Mary Ann's next administrator's meeting, see what the towns around us do in this area also. We can probably get some good guidance.
Okay.
But assuming that all goes well, I tend to agree with what I'm hearing, if I'm understanding it right, is we would get everything in place to start this next year.
I would agree with that, but I would just say it will be a lot of work to put it together, and if we're considering it, I would think that we should let all employees know who would be impacted, so those that are not covered by a CBA, that,
Correct.
you know, we're contemplating this organizationally, and that, you know, it won't be a standard 1.5% anymore. It's more aligned with your performance.
Right. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ken, question for you. For those 4 positions that you mentioned, we have to come up with a minimum for
No,
them,
you-
or is it the minimum that we give the lowest other employee?
You can't give less than what's given to the other employees. Now, I guess the question comes up
Is it
is,
the minimum max?
well,
Or weighted average.
We'd have to, you know, the statute's kind of very just
Vague.
general. I have to go into a little bit further in terms of that, but all you need to know is that there are some limitations when it comes to those people.
Those
so,
particular ones,
yeah,
because-
Those four people.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
In my experience, you can't give them nothing if you give
No,
everyone
you
else.
Oh, that-
you can't.
The language
You
is-
definitely can.
You
Give
definitely-
them the same
You have to give them
information.
the minimum. is
Yeah,
what
the
I'm saying.
minimum.
What I'm saying is that if you have some sort of tiered thing,
Yeah, do they get the max?
then it raises an issue in my mind.
Well, in my experience in my hometown, somebody had interpreted that you had to give it the max, and at that time I had conferred with an attorney, and they said it's commensurate, so it doesn't have to be the max, it can be like a blended type thing, but I would defer to Ken's interpretation, but that was my experience, because someone had been using it as an excuse to give a favored a pet employee the highest raise.
Okay. All right, Senior and Veteran Affairs Liaison, Mr. Cassio?
Yeah, we talked about maybe establishing a director in that respect. I know we're at our max at 10 at this point. We could shift one if we wanted to. I think that's a good liaison. From what I understand, that the seniors were happy with what they had, but we really have no Veteran Affairs liaison to the council or the township. It's kind of one of those areas where that's very important constituents of the town. They do a lot, and I thought maybe that we'd like to have someone at least tell us their concerns and their needs and wants. And that's all I was really, discussing about that.
So that's something you and I could work on, Mr. Mayor, maybe identifying the person?
Yeah, what I was going to say is maybe even though we no longer have a VFW, the post is still active.
Yes.
Maybe we can reach out to the
Yes,
head,
yeah.
without mentioning names, the head
Right.
of the VFW and see.
If he'd
I'd
be
be happy
interested in-
happy to work on that
Perfect.
jointly. Yeah.
And that's
Thank
usually a blended,
Yeah.
a blended one too.
Yeah, and this way we get some input from them.
Right.
Yeah.
Has anything started with the old VFW house there?
It's coming up,
Coming.
Mr. Bruno.
I forgot whether it was on or
Well,
not.
it's transferred hands, it's not ours anymore.
What number is
It's
it?
Habitat for Humanity, I just read it.
Okay, go ahead.
It's 16.
Jefferson, 16, Habitat Home on
16,
Jefferson.
All right.
Petition language form of government, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, I just want to verify, because I think people are getting signatures. I know there are two pieces. One is, signatures that doesn't have to have specific language, except that, I guess we the residents want a form of government change, and they sign it, and they're registered voters. And then I think when it comes to the, when you have the elections, the prime, whatever it is on the voting, that has to be a specific language, correct? When you put it like
You
we,
mean the ballot question?
the
We
ballot,
get-
sorry, I
we
couldn't
get
think of it.
involved
Yeah.
with the ballot question.
Yeah,
That's
the
when we
ballot.
get involved. We don't get
Okay.
involved with the petition.
Okay, thank you.
I think what Bob's asking is, does that petition have to be specific towards the form of government? When you
Or can
get,
it just say we want to change the
Change.
form of government as listeners?
I'm not really here to give advice to people who want to do petitions.
Okay.
Representing the town, I represent the town, so,
Okay.
okay.
that's
fine.
not something that...
Mr. Bruno, bus huts?
Mr.
Oh, sorry,
Casino, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
If we can digress half a moment, just throw me on the list of number 4 with the senior
sure.
liaison, please. I'd like to volunteer for that
Sure.
and be involved if I may help.
Okay.
Thank you kindly. Sorry.
Bus huts, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, so, the bus hut over by the Parkway is just,
Deplorable.
I'm just curious as to what the game plan is.
It's on the DMF's, if you will, spring cleanup list to go around to the 2 huts in town and see what they can do to, bring them up, throw a fresh coat of paint, give them a power washing, something like that. So it's on their list for springtime items.
So the one by the Parkway actually has no roof. It's missing half a roof now.
Okay.
And it's kind of embarrassing for me to wait for a bus with people,
I'm
so I don't tell them on the
I don't remember
council.
it specifically, but I'm sure they can throw a roof on it. It's very small, so if it needs a roof, they'll address that also. I'll point it out to
Okay, yeah,
them.
power wash, paint, clean roof.
Yeah.
Besides the location of those bus huts, does the DOT have anything to do with those, Mike or Ken?
No, they're ours.
They're ours. It's just the location?
I think the DOT just locations.
Just
Steve,
okay.
yeah.
Well, it's the bus stop by New Jersey Transit.
Right.
Oh, and-
That's it.
Yeah.
okay.
So if, like, when I commuted, this goes back some time, in Hackensack, for instance, they have, metal and plexiglass, open, enclosed, semi-enclosed. Those are provided by the city of Hackensack?
No, those are provided by New Jersey Transit, but maintained by the city of Hackensack.
So would we have an option, or can we petition
Reach out to them.
the New Jersey Transit to put or install bus huts?
At
In
those
tho-
2 locations?
I mean, is that something that we can
We
do?
can do it, we can.
I'll reach out to them.
Maybe we ought to wait
Yeah,
for the
because
intersection.
if they're going to provide an enclosure which is
Class
one.
sanctioned by them, you know, it's no
We just
cost
have
to
to
the
maintain
taxpayer.
Rockland coach.
I think we can maintain it.
Yeah, the problem is it's not a New Jersey
It's a
transit
short
line.
line, right? So
It's Red and Coach or Coach and USA.
But they buy that.
They're all owned and rented by Jersey, so
Correct.
they should be able to do
New Jersey
something nice.
Transit has
Establishes
jurisdiction
the
over it.
stops, I think,
Correct.
so, yeah.
It would be nice just knock it down and put something up that's nice.
If they can, I mean,
Yeah, I think they can.
We could
They
talk
go
to New
along
Jersey Transit
Pasco-
about
they
that.
did
They'll
along
give us a yes or
Pasco
no.
Road.
Doesn't
We'll reach out.
cost anything to talk.
Yeah.
Doghouse property, owner of the boats, RV trucks.
So who'll reach out to them on that?
I will reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any update on the doghouse, Mary Ann, Mr. Mayor?
As far as I know, it's all in compliance
Yeah, I
now.
Oh, they put
I
the,
I
they
think,
cleaned
yeah,
up?
Gary Masnak issued a report, and he, I think you should, probably got that.
Well, we got the report, we just didn't have
But
any
yeah,
follow-up since
and
then.
he basically says they're just about in compliance.
They cleaned it up nicely.
Oh, they did clean it up,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Mhm.
All right, thank you. We did the green team already, codification,
Okay, we're on schedule, we're on their production schedule. I'm gonna get the final comments in before the end of this month, and we're right on schedule where we're supposed to be now. I can't give you a specific date, but it's gonna be in fairly short order that they'll have them out.
okay, so we're on schedule.
Yes.
Prospect Street agreements, do we have any?
One second.
Oh, sorry,
No, it's okay. So they're going to give us their final comments, and then we're going to review those, or?
I think they're gonna give you the final,
Book
you know,
before it gets
the fi- yeah,
published.
Before the
yeah,
publish?
yeah.
Do we
Because you-
have time,
To
at
do-
that time to
do
change
more,
anything?
I don't
or
think,
make
no, I don't think so. That you're gonna have to do by separate ordinance
Okay.
afterwards, because otherwise, they said they have to call an end to, you know.
Sure.
Otherwise, it'll be an ongoing
Okay,
situation.
so if there's something that we want to add or delete, we
You
can do
can do
that
it,
by
yeah,
ordinance?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The status of the Prospect Street agreements, you know, the homeowners were,
Yes, about approximately 2 weeks ago, we came up with an agreement that satisfied the last two homeowners as to what they were looking for.
are those the two that haven't been involved this whole time, or?
No, it was two that have been involved but had not signed off on any of the previous versions. So we were able to successfully come up with an agreement. And what we'd like to do is everyone who previously signed an earlier version, we want to get to one standard agreement. So we're going to be sending out this standard agreement saying this one supersedes any other one. That way all five of them have signed the same agreement. We should send that out to them, hoping by the end of this week. They'll turn it around very quick. And then to just answer these quick questions generically.
Is our contract with the vendor still, will he still honor that, Mary Ann?
Yes, they have the devices, they're anxious to get it done, they keep asking,
Okay.
so.
So they will
They're
still
ready
honor
to go, we just have to get on their schedule,
Okay.
yeah.
Mary just kind of said what I was going to say here, is that, you know,
Oh,
once
so the vendor is
once
ready
they
to
sign
go.
them.
I-
A purchase order was issued
I just want to make sure
like
he's still
4
been
months,
on there. Yeah,
like 4
yeah.
months ago.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, on that, on Prospect Street?
no.
Use of the Board of Education fields, do we make any progress with that, or any meetings set up with the Board of Ed to see if we could use some of the fields to take some of the overflow off of Memorial?
I must confess I'll have to follow up on that. I did not since the last meeting. I'll follow up with that.
Since Mr. Pollard just stepped out, I guess, Mr. Bruno, that would be addressed to him?
Yeah.
So we'll skip that one until he comes back. Mr. Bruno would like an answer regarding the nomination of Dave Terwilliger as rec director. Do we have any update on that? It's still being entertained, are we not entertaining?
I'd like to maybe answer this with a question. You can choose to answer it or not answer it. You didn't approve my director of Judy Curran for finance director. I have no idea why no one chose to say anything, and so I'm kind of in the dark as to what I would look for in a director. So I don't know if anyone would care to give me guidance as to what you're looking for, since you didn't approve that person.
Well, we didn't consent to several appointees.
Well, tonight it was just her.
Right, so the question on this was, you said you were gonna consider whether or not Mr. Terwilliger would be a rec director. So I'm just asking, have you considered it? And are you thinking of having him as a rec director? That's one question. Regardless of our comments on Judy Curran, because I will comment on that, though. So this
I'm
is,
sorry, did
so
you
what's
say
the
you
answer on
will
this?
comment?
Will comment, he
Okay. Let me say I haven't ruled it out yet.
Okay, so it's been like 3 months. Are you going to consider it or not? I mean, because at this point, it's just a yes or no, so let's be honest.
Do we want to have a back and forth?
No, I
on
don't
it
have
at
a
this-
back and forth. I want an answer. Would you stop with the back and forth stuff?
I just wanted to-
Answer the question, yes or no. I've asked you 3 months already.
But a back and forth, man, I wanted to ask you
Okay,
a
so,
question on it.
no, answer yes or no. You said you would consider it for 3 months now.
I'm-
Yes or no?
I'm considering it. Since you don't want to answer my question, that's the answer I'm giving.
You're the mayor of the town, you coward.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. So let me talk about your director of finance. The reason I didn't consent was because when the director was the part-time CFO, I was told, because I was asking to come to meetings and do certain things, that she felt her job was way, too much was expected of her. So she resigned, and I was told because of me. So why would I approve a director of finance who resigned supposedly because of me, because I was asking her to do her job as the CFO? So that's my response. So now you can respond to Mr. Terwilliger. So 3
No,
months,
I'm not going to play this game.
3 months you're going to consider him.
Move on. Let's move on, gentlemen.
So you won't consider her for a different position?
I gave
The
you my
director.
comment.
Okay, and I'm giving
Did
you
you
my
not
comment.
listen to me?
I gave
You were
and
a
I gave my
council
comment.
member.
Let's move on. Gentlemen,
You
let's
were a
move on.
council
Gentlemen,
member.
let's move on.
No, but the mayor has to answer things. He avoids everything. He's been avoiding everything for
Mr.
months.
Mr.
He doesn't
Mr.
answer
Bruno,
Okay,
anything.
what else have I avoided, Bob? Let's get into
No,
it.
He comes here and
Bob
says,
makes
"I
these
didn't
comments
expect
and
to
then-
talk
Mr. Bruno,
about
Mr.
this."
Bruno, Mr. Bruno, please.
Well, then you're going to have to
talking,
curb
he's
his
talking.
tongue also, Mike. Come on, you
I'm
can't let
asking Mr. Bruno.
him make attacks to me and then I can't respond.
You're
not making
You're
attacks.
both responding. Both of you are responding.
He just said that I come unprepared.
You said you didn't come to discuss the budget. You should know the budget. You're the
Mr.
mayor.
Bruno,
Yeah, I should
Mr.
know
Bruno,
every line item in
Mr.
the
Bruno,
budget,
Mr.
right,
Bruno.
Bob?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Bruno.
Don't say Mr. Bruno. Say
Mr.
Mayor
both of yous.
Calamari.
Both of you.
I'm not making
Yeah.
accusations.
He makes-
He's saying I come unprepared.
You did. You said I'm not prepared to discuss the
Yeah,
budget.
All right.
You're right.
We're-
Was this a budget meeting?
Gentlemen, we're going to move on. We have a lot to address, and
And Mike DeSena, I have to get one more comment in. I think you need to take charge of these meetings better, because everyone just comments when they want to. When they want to comment, they should say, Mr. DeSena, may I make a comment?
Mr. Mayor, we're all guilty of that, including the administrator, including yourself, including all of
Right.
us. So let's not throw stones in glass houses. Let's move on.
And these
Fire-
meetings will continue this way.
Firehouse progress report. Do we have any status on that, Mr. Mayor?
The architect would like another meeting with the fire department at this point that Pete Nseta is working on scheduling.
Does he have a date that he thinks he's going to complete that report?
He being the architect?
Yes.
No, I think he wants this other meeting before he can do a complete report.
And that report will entail all his findings of what the existing hinders us from moving forward and so forth?
My understanding is the report is going to analyze the deficiencies in the existing firehouse and an approximate cost estimate to address them, as opposed to doing one from scratch.
Okay.
Did we pay this guy yet?
Half.
The contract, I think, called for half his retainer to be given to him.
So we all saw the email today, right? The ceiling's caving in, the water's coming through.
Yes, we did. Well, I did.
Yes. And I believe the DMF and the plumber is on board to fix it. Moving on, intersection progress report, Mr. Mayor, anything on that?
Nancy from the county sent me an email acknowledging that she received everything she needs from the engineer, and so the ball is definitely in their court, but she would not commit to any time frame that they will take to get back to us with what they do at this point.
But we are, we have all our ducks in a row.
Yes, yes, she confirmed that.
So and I realize that we've given them meaning the county, everything, they've acknowledged this.
Right.
So, Mike, you had gone through a number of steps. You had laid out, 5 or 6 high-level steps. I guess my question is, one thing that we all can agree on is that intersection needs to get done. We've either campaigned on it recently or years ago, but it needs to get done. So my question to you is, based on your experience, and whoever else wants to interject, is when are we going to get, something tangible? So there is, I guess, some level of property acquisition that may or may not need to take place. When are we told that?
I hope,
Mike, you can confirm.
I think in
because
the
you
next
probably-
3 to 6 months, I think we should hopefully have that information.
Yeah, but I believe it's part of the next step that they are working on now, right, Mike, is they delineate what properties we would have to take.
we need to take.
Right.
And do they come to us with a design? And
Yes, we will see the full
Yes.
intersection at the next step.
Yes.
The property acquisitions will show the new configuration of the intersection and why they need to take those properties.
And do they provide us with sort of shovel-ready drawings, or is it a concept that we then need to acquire the land before we could take the next step?
It will wait until we acquire the land.
Okay. I mean,
Yes.
I realize...
It will not happen in 18, if that's your ultimate question.
Well, it's not, but, I mean, is there something we can do to have that expedited?
I think we've prepared in the budget for the acquisitions. I think we've done everything at this point. Mr. Azzolino's completed the survey. I think other than being a thorn in their side to help us get this thing progressed, that we're this serious about it. I think Mrs. Dargis understands that we're this serious about it.
What she told me, excuse me, in not so many words, is she can never commit to a time, but that doesn't mean they won't have it to us quickly.
Okay.
But
And I don't know if it would have any influence, but I know you mentioned that you go to the mayor's meeting, just as we supported Hillsdale with their petition for waste management, perhaps, since they have residents that pass through Westwood, Rivervale, Emerson, whomever it is, perhaps a dialogue could take place, and they can support us with contacting the county on our behalf.
Or maybe pass a resolution,
Whether it's a resolution, whether it's a letter, but, this is not just impacting Washington Township. This is a quality of life for really anyone who passes through that.
I will certainly reach out to them even before the next meeting and see if they're on board with that.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? The Habitat home on Jefferson. I know the foundations were poured. The site's been graded. It's moving along, right, Mr. Mayor?
I haven't checked, like Mr. Powell said, I think earlier, since we turned it over to them. It's not.
I've seen the utilities put in.
Yeah, the
If I
utility,
can
they're
offer
moving
that.
along, it's moving along.
The police and the utilities
foundations
were
are
there.
in,
Yeah.
the garage slabs it looked like they were getting ready to be poured. So they are physically doing construction out there as we
Moving
speak.
right along, apparently.
Yes.
Are they going to come to us as a town? Maybe not the council, but I haven't seen anything requesting volunteers, or do they align that all internally and they really don't ask the township for?
Well, there's a website to log in if you want to volunteer, so you'd have to go on the Habitat website and you could volunteer your time on there.
Okay.
That's how they typically do it.
I'll check that out. Thank you.
And Michael, if you check that out, if it's something that they do
Yeah.
specifically for our town, maybe we can put a link on our website.
All right. I'll follow up with that.
Any updates on the CFO, Mr. Mayor?
No, I'm not willing to do anything. I mean, we just passed the salary ordinance tonight and the budget, so I'm not going to do anything until the budget is passed, and I'm sure we have funding for
Okay.
the full-time.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno, on that?
No.
Your next item, Mr. Bruno, events, restaurants, spread the wealth. It's yours.
I mean, we talk about supporting local businesses, and I know all the events that we do go to, basically seasons. I'm just curious as to whether anything can be spread over to Bakari, even though they're family members, but I'm sure it'd be nice that we spread the wealth.
I just don't know what you mean, they're family members.
Sorry?
You said they're family members, I don't know what that means.
I think they're cousins. No, I mean, they're cousins, they work things out.
Oh, the owners of those two
Yeah, yeah.
locations? Oh,
Right.
okay.
They are. They're all the same family.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be nice to spread the wealth out, that's all.
So,
Okay.
They pay taxes, they own the property, I assume.
The next thing on the agenda is the infrastructure study. Mr. Mayor, is that something we have proceeded on with Mr. Azzolino, or? I know we discussed it previously.
Did we discuss Mr. Azzolino doing something? I
Or
thought
doing
this
that
was tied
RFP.
into the council, evaluating the $7,000 that's in the budget for the council, doing that evaluation. So maybe I'm confused, or maybe,
Well, Mr. Pollard, can we hire our own consultant to do an infrastructure study as the council?
because I think the funding stayed
No.
with the council
No, so
line
that's why
item.
the mayor has to agree to do it, yeah. I knew the answer you were gonna tell me.
Well, then I'd have to know where we're funding it out of if we left it in the council part of the budget.
Well, I'm sure it could be paid out of our line. I think you have to, in agreement with the council, arrange it. I mean, all I would say to this is, I know when we were evaluating the original Bethany, there was a proposal made to do a larger
Right.
evaluation. I know you wanted to focus on initially wanted to focus on the firehouse, because that was a smaller project, measurable, and
Correct.
potentially quicker to execute. I do think, though, that, we have a DMF that is a challenge. Town hall can be a challenge. Is there an opportunity to look at the larger infrastructure and identify if there are projects we should be prioritizing or not?
Let me say, Ken nodded his head, saying, I think we can spend the money out of that line item.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, like I said for something else just a few items ago, as soon as the budget's passed and I know the funding passes, I'll be
Okay.
happy to get that in the works.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
The red house next to the firehouse,
I'd like it to just stay status quo until we get this report from the architect as to what they see as a plan for the firehouse. I'm hoping to have it no later than the end of May. So I'd like to combine anything we do on the red house in conjunction with their recommendation.
okay, so we'll wait until.
Yes,
So we'll carry that over until after the May
Please.
meeting when we get the report back. I know back in January, we had talked about, I know you were discussing with some local businesses, adding some additional commuter parking, so the commuters had more places to park. Has there been any update with that? Because I've been getting a lot of calls on that people don't have spots. I know they're getting there late, but,
There is an update, I'm just trying to think if I can disclose it just yet based on where we are. When is our next meeting?
May 7th?
May 7th.
Well, I guess the question would be, when will we have an answer, do you think?
Will we have it for the May 7th
You
meeting?
you definitely will, and probably even before. It may not come to the council. I mean, I'll certainly send it to the council as an informational thing, but we can probably get it going even before the next council meeting.
Okay.
Based on where we are in the negotiation.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Ricky needs to do something with the cameras. So everybody who's okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
All right.
Backyard.
Town-owned property, Mr. Bruno.
Back in.
So we received a map, I guess, of town-owned property a while ago, and I don't think anything was done with it, but I was just curious. I mean, people talk about dog parks, but I was more concerned about, can we sell off some of this property or use it for other reasons? And I don't have the map in front of me anymore, but, so my question is, there's a lot of little parcels of land that we own, and, you know, there's people looking for community gardens, dog runs, and that just really, if some of these properties are bordering homes, can we sell them off to them? Was my question, or what do we do with all this property?
Well, okay.
Yeah, no, if you have something to say, Ken, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so, just a couple of things. I mean, you can't sell off property. There are requirements that you have to follow to do that.
You said you can or you can't?
You can, subject to the statute dealing with the sale of public lands. You can't just say, I'm in the real estate business, this looks like a great deal, let's do it.
I understand.
Okay, so, for example, if you have, you know, an undersized lot that's, you know, can be divided, it's a requirement that you offer it to the two people on the contiguous, on either side of the property. If one of the problems with selling off small pieces of property is that we have a conditional use ordinance in town, they call it the dollhouse ordinance. The problem is that, you know, in order to avoid inverse condemnation, we had to pass, the town passed this ordinance a long time ago, and the problem is they can put up a very, very small house that really does not belong in the neighborhood, so to speak, and the neighbors are really put upon if you sell that off. So on the one hand, you sell it off, looks great, you put it on the rolls, but then the people in the area have a problem with, you know, what's going to be put there, that kind of a thing. So,
Well, we could just ask the contiguous neighbors if they'd like to purchase it.
well,
and add it to theirs.
I just said, if there's, you know, there's a requirement to do that, as a matter of fact, and you can do auctions and things like that, but once it's purchased, you know, the limitation on what they can do is not necessarily 100%, okay, in terms of what they can do with the property. So all I'm saying is that, you know, as a broad proposition, you certainly can sell off property, but you have to spend, you know, time analyzing what can be done with that particular piece of property. Each property needs to be looked at real carefully, the neighbors looked at real carefully, the use looked at real carefully, the possible zoning implications have to be looked at real carefully. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
As far as your inventory, that's totally up to you.
As an opening step, Ken, can we ask if the adjoining people are interested without officially putting the property
We do-
on the
we-
market
we
or
have- we
something
have-
like that?
We have done that in the past, where we've sent letters as a first step. We have done that.
Have we gotten any responses back, or it's not been?
No, we've done.
Most are, they want.
We've actually sold land. We have done.
We have, okay, we have.
Oh,
It
we
has
have.
worked.
Oh, we have.
So could we maybe, in the next few meetings, review what letter, or how we would accomplish getting them a letter, or how that?
Well, why don't you?
Yeah,
look at-
identify the property.
Well, once we identify the
Well,
property.
Identify what you
Step
want.
by step, I just said, identify the property.
Yeah.
See what the size is, see what can be done with it, talk about, you know, that kind of thing, and we'll come up with a letter.
Maybe we can do it as part of the infrastructure study to kind of put those together, and I know they're separate but similar, you know, because
Yeah,
as
it's
part of
something
it, we should look at all the
we
town
should identify
properties
all
to
the town
see
properties and
what
see what-
could be done with them, if anything, so.
Well, last year I had circulated excerpts of the tax maps with the town-owned properties
I
highlighted.
still have mine.
Can we get a can you recirculate that, Marion? Because I don't have a copy.
I still have my copy if you don't.
I have one
it.
I use in my office, so I can
Okay.
have copies made.
Those are also on the co-op plan that we did, because we had to identify all the open space on that as well. So they're all on that one.
Okay.
There's that
I
document.
think Mary Ann's was much more user-friendly, though, if I remember correct.
Yeah, but the other one was so much colorful. I like the color.
Mr. Bruno, anything else on town-owned property?
No, just to look at it.
You had another question regarding drafting resolutions?
Yeah, so, well, just before that, the number 23.
Oh, I'm sorry, other options? other
Yeah,
form of
Ken,
government.
when we talked about forms of government, and you had given us your letter, you made a comment at one of the meetings that the existing form we have now actually had other options to it, or at least I thought you said that. Was I mistaken?
No, there are a couple of options. There's about 4 or 5, if I recall, off the top of my head. But they're, wards was one. There's a few. I think there were like A, B, C, D, and they all applied except for one did not apply. And that was the.
Can you send that to us? Because I know, because
You
I
got
know,
it. You got it.
no, you had said on our existing form now.
Yeah. Okay.
That there were
I'll send it to you.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll
thank you.
send it.
All right, I just, I just
Yep.
want to be informed of
Yep.
all decisions, that's
Yep.
all. Thank you.
I guess your next topic, drafting resolutions, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, this was just, are the drafting of resolutions coming from the clerk or from the attorney? Is this-
Okay, so basically what we do is substantive resolutions, I do,
Which ones?
substantive, real substantive resolutions, but pro forma type resolutions, the clerk usually does.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No.
The status of the Quest project, Mr. Fowler?
Okay, so that order show cause was served. The return day is this Friday.
Oh,
The time period for the defendant to have answered has expired. I sent in a proposed form of order, so I expect some action, at least the action by the court can be taken on Friday. If the judge signs the order as I submitted it, fine. If not, what the judge will do is the following week, he'll take care of either signing my order or preparing the order that they want to enter, that kind of thing. But the relief that I've requested will be granted, assuming, I don't see the reason for
so
not.
within the next couple of weeks, we may be able to get on site then?
Yes, for sure, yes.
All right, does Quest know our schedule, Mary? Who's taking care of Quest, is it?
Well, I think that Marion wasn't told about the scheduling, so I'm just telling her now that what the timing is going to be. So the order will come next week sometime, probably.
I thought you've been dealing with them, so
you want me
you
to
might
do
as
it?
well just tell them.
Okay, I'll deal with them.
All is clear.
I'll let him know.
Just a question, is it a one-time access that we're requesting?
No, I asked for a permanent access in terms of any, until, as
Until it's
needed,
over
so
resolved.
without court intervention to do
Okay.
that. I also put in that they be assessed costs if they interfere, any representatives or any family members if they interfere with the actual sampling and stuff like that. I put a provision in there. I put, some extra stuff in, and we'll see what the judge orders.
Thank you.
Ken, since you say that tends to carry forward now, is that something in the deed, or if the house changes hands, might we have to go through this again?
Yes, it doesn't go with the property. It goes-
Okay,
it
so
goes-
to the owner,
It goes with this
current
current
owner?
owner.
It's goes with
Okay.
the owner.
Well, let's keep our fingers
Yeah.
crossed that this will be the.
Right.
Don't sell.
Mr. Bruno, do you have something else about payments to Quest?
Well, we haven't, yeah. So my question is, did we make any payments to Quest as at this point? And if we did, then I think Quest, I know we asked to see what the results were from the DMF yard. But if we made payments and they haven't given us the results, we should see the results at this point or not pay them anything anymore.
They didn't send anything out for testing because they were waiting on this
Yeah,
last.
there are no,
Yeah.
there are no results, Mr. Bruno.
I thought they took everything from the yard.
Yeah, but
They
never
took it,
sent
but they
out
didn't
final
send it out
labels.
for, yeah.
Oh, they never sent it out then?
Because they needed all of them.
They need all of them.
They need
You
all
can't
of
just
them.
do-
I thought they sent it out but weren't giving us the results.
No.
Oh, okay, all right,
No, they sampled all the other wells
Okay,
with the
fine.
exception of that.
okay. Did we pay them anything?
Yes, at some point pursuant to their agreement. It's they fulfilled certain steps and that's what we
Okay.
paid them for. I matched up the invoice to the agreement.
Labor attorney recommendations, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, this was just something I had asked, we had asked Mr. Poller on for the labor attorneys. He was gonna look at some recommendations for
And
us.
I am, I still am,
Okay.
yeah.
Open contracts and litigation.
Before you get any further, I know I took a quick break. Did you pass over the?
Yeah,
Number 12, we skipped it, we
Can I-
can go
can I-
back. Yes,
can I
we're
do
gonna,
that? 'Cause
we can go back then.
Okay,
yeah.
because I want to,
Yeah.
cover that. I don't want to open item on my.
No,
list.
we just, you had
Yeah,
stepped out
okay,
for a minute.
all right. So, should I do it now?
Yes, please.
All right, so I was asked to take a look at this issue of any kind of a conflict regarding the
Number 12.
Northern New Jersey Junior Football League, INC. So I looked into it. So in fact, it is a bona fide nonprofit corporation. It was filed with the state of New Jersey, and it's in good standing. I conducted an interview about, and it's $650, and that's what we're
Correct.
talking about. It's not a great amount of money, but this is what I've determined so far. So the league consists of Washington Township plus 7 other towns. Each of the towns pays $650. The $650 is used for insurance, for documentation that has to be filed, including rule books, coaches' passes, annual report, the website. There's a coach's social that covers with the fee also. There's an assignee or assignor fee, who is basically the head ref, who handles the scheduling, and trophies. There is no compensation paid to anyone. There's no fees paid to anyone. The officers, Scott Spezial is the president. He receives no compensation, and there is no remuneration for any of the officers or the board members. So
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
that's.
you didn't get any tax returns or anything, did you?
No, I don't think that I'm really in a position to start subpoenaing tax returns and things
I
like that.
don't know if you'd have to subpoena it, but if a coach enrolls himself into a league that he's the president and his brother's the treasurer, I don't think you have to subpoena tax returns. I mean, that's a little aggressive, don't you
Well, I
think,
think
Ken?
Mr. Bruno, Mr. Pollard answered that he does not
No,
receive.
I'm asking a question, whether or not there were any other, he said he didn't receive, I'm just asking if there are any questions regarding the tax returns. You don't have to subpoena tax returns, I mean, we know that.
Well,
That's a little aggressive and a little,
You can request a tax return. Yeah, what I'm saying is if somebody doesn't want to give a tax return, are you going to subpoena a tax return?
no, I don't think you have to subpoena one, but that's okay. I figured that would be the answer anyway. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Pollard?
Nope.
Moving on, open contracts and litigation.
Yeah, my question is are there any open contracts or litigations that we haven't seen or been made aware of that we need to go in closed session eventually?
The only one that I will send you later in the week is the one for the grant writer. We're just finishing up on it. But that's the only one I'm aware of.
As far as litigation's concerned, you have the COA lawsuit. You have the tax appeal by the shopping center.
Yep.
You have another tax appeal before the tax court. The name is Dougherty. You have a bunch of county appeals which have been filed. You have the Bashara case, which is on for Friday. Quest. And
That's pretty much
that's
it.
it.
Something that was brought up before is the retail marijuana store usage, whether or not we should be proactive or reactive with passing an ordinance. I know we were going to look at what the adjacent towns have done in regards to this. Do we have any update on, Mr. Mayor, maybe at your next mayor's meeting, you can ask how they're addressing it? I know some towns have passed ordinances not allowing retail marijuana stores in their town.
Yes, it came up, some have passed. They're not sure how it would ever hold up if
Okay, they did
challenged,
pass
but
it.
they have, yes.
So, I mean, I just think that we're legislating out something that doesn't exist at the moment. So do we have to wait till they're passed? Or they're allowed before we can legislate that they can't be allowed?
Well, I think the problem would be is if something came in and went for their approval, and then you passed,
Then we pass it, right?
then you have a problem. I think you might have a problem with that application.
Okay,
Because then we're doing it after the fact.
so do we just say you can't?
Make it a prohibited use.
Do we maybe look at the other towns, Mr. Pollard, and see how
You
they
can,
passed and
sure.
give us your
I mean,
opinion on
sure,
whether you think
sure.
it's something we should enact? You know?
Well, let me put it this way. My opinion of whether we should or shouldn't is not.
No, but
Yeah,
what your
my-
recommendation on the wordage should be
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that,
yeah, okay, all right.
And what the language of the enactment
Sure,
should be.
okay.
Well, is there support of the council and the administration to legislate it out? Because if
Yeah, what,
four of us don't want to do it, or the mayor is not in support of legislating it out, then it doesn't make much sense to
Correct,
have
to waste time on
any
it.
work done. So, I don't know if,
Want to take a quick straw poll and on the council?
Maybe before we do that, or, I mean, you're
Talk to the
welcome.
police department?
I wasn't even going to go that far. If we want to do it tonight in closed, I haven't, something to add to this that I can't say in open that might be pertinent to the topic.
Okay.
So you can take the straw poll, and I can do it another night, or I can do it tonight if we have time.
yeah, I mean, we could wait.
What's the straw poll on?
Do we want to move forward with some type of
Restriction.
legislative action to restrict?
But Ken, weren't you gonna look into see whether or not we could even do that?
No.
No what?
No, let's wait till closed and we'll discuss it during closed, if you don't
Okay.
mind. OEM debrief, winter storm, update from administration. If there be, Mr. Ullman had requested we would have a debrief on how everything went. If there's anything we need to do or correct,
Yes,
Mr. Ullman?
it was a very good idea of Mr. Ullman's. I spoke to one of the OEM members who will be putting out emails to all the department heads to try and get that meeting together.
Yeah, just, again, I think it was sort of an unprecedented storm, and there may have been lessons learned that should be incorporated into future response or identification of equipment shortfalls.
Yes.
And it may have come in drips and drabs, but if it can be cohesively identified, I think that would be great.
And without belaboring the point too much, when I brought it up to him, he said it's something he'd like to do every year after the winter season, but couldn't in prior years.
Certainly. Okay.
And on a related note, and I don't even know if the mayor is aware of this, because I found out today, I was brought to my attention that the new state person who interacts with FEMA has reached out to the OEMs in the various towns to solicit cost for potential claims for FEMA. So that was just brought to my attention today, so we'll be gathering the information, and that'll be related to this debriefing process as well.
Yeah, I know the costs were kept track of for when this
Yeah,
came up.
yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Heating and cooling center update from the administration. Mr. Ullman had a couple questions regarding the opening and closing
So-
of the heating and cooling center.
Again, when this storm took place, I don't know the exact dates, but the next day, I think the storm hit on Wednesday. On Thursday, there was an announcement, I think it was on the website, that the heating center opened. And I guess my question is, who makes that decision, and perhaps should that call have been made earlier, and, what's that process?
In connection with OEM, I spoke to the chief and OEM and myself about that. It's been a gray area as to who makes the call, so we kind of decided in the future, again, it will come from OEM, and in anticipation of a storm, they will put out necessary information to say we plan on opening it, whether it's used or not, it will be open, so the residents know ahead of time. Should they lose power or something, they know it will be open. So that's also something they were anxious to get going.
Okay, and just the flip side of that, because we're going to be into the cooling season shortly, is it, 90 degrees or higher, and it opens? Again, I don't know what that criteria is, but, if we have residents in town that for one reason or another, either power supply or money, whatever it is, that they don't maintain AC, is there a criteria that would be used to open this as a cooling center?
I will certainly ask them that question also.
Thank you.
Do we have a policy, Mr. Mayor, or if anybody on the council knows, what happens if the governor declares a state of emergency for our non-essential personnel? Do we have like a
What do you mean, as far as reporting for work?
reporting for work?
I think, well, I'll let Peter answer.
Oh, I honestly don't know. I mean, I made a judgment call a couple times
You've
this
made,
year to close
this
it, but
I'm saying,
mayor
but do you
has
have
done a judgment call, the prior mayor would never close, and needs to
Oh, well,
have
that's what I'm saying. Do we have a policy that says if a state of emergency is declared, that non-essential employees, will be notified by a certain time that they don't have to report to work?
Well, we've been doing that, and
Okay.
I think it's actually against the law to make somebody come to work when it's a state of emergency. You're not allowed to be on the roads unless
You're
you're
an essential
essential
employee.
employee.
Yeah, correct. Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I think we may need to look at our policy for essential and non-essential employees. Like the DMF would be essential employees, so they have to
Right.
come to work.
Right, no, but we've been doing that,
somebody
and I have
in another department is non-essential, they don't need to risk, I understand, but, so we need to maybe set a policy or something, so.
How about just a list of essential and non-essential?
Yeah.
That covers it.
Well, we know who they are, and I have a
Yeah,
phone
so essential.
list. The mayor and I, every storm, confer,
Okay.
usually before, well in advance, sometimes the morning of, and then I start a chain. I usually contact Sue, she
Okay,
contacts
so we
somebody.
have a chain.
Yeah, we have a
okay.
chain.
That's what I was asking, is there like a protocol?
Yeah, we never had to have one before this year, but now we have one.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Can I just add one other thing to a question? Some of the issues we have is when our electricity goes out, and we don't know what the game plan is, or how long, or what it is, and I know the phones don't work, and I don't know whether or not there could be a 800 number to call into, or the dispatch office can really be informed, because a lot of times they're not informed as to what happened. But there seems to be a lot of, when that happens, we just don't know how long it's going to be out and what the story is. And unfortunately, where I live, it seems to always go out anytime there's an issue. So can we also put that on the list too?
Yeah, again, in my conversation with them about this, it came up about how to notify people. We said maybe using the reverse 911 system, assuming people's phone service is working, and/or that there's an app, I forget the name of it, that they used, that people can join.
Yeah, you can also join the PSE&G app, Mr. Bruno, and it alerts you when your power could be put back.
No, I understand that, but when you call them, they're like, it should come on by 10:30 at night, and then you don't know anything. So I'm just talking about if the town has any other information, it'd be helpful.
And just as a reminder, when you say that, Bob, we can't be an overnight center. We are not equipped to be an overnight center. So we would have to close by from 11 to 6, because we don't have that capability currently to be whatever's needed for an overnight center.
For both cooling or heating. yes.
Right, yeah.
Anything else on that subject, Tom? The last, number 32, paving the DMF yard.
So I guess, having gone there for 15 years, I don't think it's been paved in 15 years I've been there.
22 for me, and it hasn't been.
It's, the DMF, the overall facility is up for discussion, but I think that paving that yard, potentially will help the staff of the DMF. I know if there's public
Help the
visiting it,
residents.
I'm sure they would appreciate it. The water collects in the depressions, and I'm just wondering, is that something we could do? Is it something we could roll into the paving contract? Is it, is there appetite from the DMF to do it, the administration? So, it's something I would propose that we consider.
I spoke to the DMF acting superintendent about it, and I honestly can't believe he said that they're okay with it, that the patchwork they do every year, they're fine with it. And again, he said, you know, if you ask me this question next year, might things change, or might his answer change? He said yes, but he said, you know, he has, let's say, faith that we're going to do something bigger with the DMF, either, you know, or have a plan for it this year or next year. And so he said in light of all that, they don't recommend doing anything at this point.
Okay,
Anything else, Mr. Ullman?
that was it. Thank you,
Cummings,
Peter.
Bruno? Mr. Cassia?
Yeah.
Next thing, Mr. Bruno, crosswalk line at Spice Drive. So one does exist there. So I
No,
didn't know.
this was from Spice to Jackson, but they, you know, the crosswalk to go from one side to the other, east to west,
Oh, east to west.
north to south. So in other words, the bus drops you off at Spice on the Jackson side, you have to come over to the Spice side, and it's just horrible.
But there is a crosswalk there.
No,
No, he,
no, there's nothing there. Actually, Councilman Sears was trying to get something there at one time, because someone called, but there's nothing, there's no lines going across from Spice to Jackson.
So nothing crosses Washington there?
Right.
Okay.
It's only by Robinwood, right?
I don't think they have anything there either.
No, there's a crosswalk by Robinwood.
By
There definitely
Robinwood, there is.
Yeah, there's a double crosswalk on Robinwood. Yeah.
And I forget when it took place, but it came up with the county. They're not keen of putting a crosswalk there because of it being down a hill, that a truck with visibility, and if they put a crosswalk there, they kind of said it's okay to cross here. So they weren't thrilled with the idea of putting one at the bottom of that hill. I forget how far back that goes, or
Oh, you're
even
talking
where I
Spice and
heard it.
Jackson, right by the exit ramp to the Parkway?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right-
Yeah, there is one by
right-
Robinwood, that's what I'm
Right, yeah,
thinking.
right from Spice, so
Yes.
the bus drops you off at Jackson. So,
To
like
cross
myself, I
Washington.
have to go across into Spice,
Yeah.
along with everybody else, and it's just horrible, especially when, and not that they're gonna see it in the wintertime when it's dark, but you have to have the, you know, the infrared lights to stop cars. But if there's just a crosswalk, at least they know you're there. I don't think they're gonna stop anyway, but at least they know you're there.
I mean, I'll certainly be happy to ask them again and see if
Okay.
that's still their
I guess with the
mindset.
repaving of Washington, we could ask when they repave it, to
Right.
see if they'll put one in.
Is there an update on that? I know that's not on here, but since you raised it, has the county said anything about Washington?
there is on the
Works,
list.
right?
It
My
will not be done
understanding,
until Mr. Azzolino gives them
I know, and I
those
don't know what's going on
curb
with that.
ramps, so that's gonna hold up the whole project.
He's working with them, but
I'll follow up with them on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
The linchpin in that is the crosswalks have to be redone, the ADA corner curbs have to be done first, and then they'll come pave the street.
And that's our cost, right?
No, it's the
no,
county.
they pay for it,
The
but we have
county
to
pays
lay it
for
out and they
They
reimburse.
reimburse you.
Yeah, right.
Last item on the agenda for this part is recreation fee disparity, Mr. Bruno.
I'm just curious as to whether we went through all the fees and the expenses and to see whether or not we're charging the right amount, since we did it for the summer rec, what the game plan was for all the other rec fees.
Are you talking about having each sport carry their own weight, Bob?
Well, yeah, I mean, to see what it is.
Don't
We
understand.
talked about the summer rec carrying its own weight, and I'm just trying to see what the other rec programs, whether or not we're charging the right fee, similar to what we did with the summer rec. I mean, we added a week and we said it was gonna cost us X dollars, so we recouped that money. So I'm asking about all the other recreation programs to see whether or not the fees are in correlation with the expenses.
I think we've talked about this, if you don't mind, Mr. President, we've talked about this for a number of years, having a trust account for each activity. One for, basketball, one for football, one for lacrosse, one for whatever it may be, because, it all draws off the bottom line in the recreation department. And, even though there might be a disparity in the fee, at least, if my child is playing football and Mike's child is playing basketball, which might be a lesser fee, why should, maybe his fees carry over to my fees? And we've talked about that for a long time, and I think the director talked about that would be a good idea. I know there's disparity in fees, but, why is that? And that's really the reason why. But we do carry it over to where we have a shortfall to make up for it. I don't know, it's something we discussed at budget time. I don't remember if there was an appetite or not for it, but I would be in favor of that myself.
I think we have to consider it.
I think we need more, we need all the information presented, and we'll have to review it.
Well, you got all, and it was requested, you received all the
Yeah.
fees, and you know all the costs, so
Yeah,
if...
so we need to,
Is that something you want to entertain next year? When we do, well, you'd probably have to do that before.
we have to do it this year.
We have to do it this year for next year.
We'd have to do it
You have
this
to
year for
decide
next year.
Are we
go
gonna do
about and do it.
a fee ordinance? Are we gonna revise the fee ordinance, the recreation fee ordinance, or no?
Well, that was the intent when we passed it. The first time we passed it to get the rec.
No,
and
but usually there's an ordinance that has all the fees for all the programs.
We passed that already. We did that already.
We did it for the
Couple meetings ago.
recreation.
No, the summer rec.
No, we did it on
Summer
summer
rec.
rec, that was only
No, I
summer
thought
rec.
we did it for all.
It's a standing ordinance
Yeah.
that we amended for the
Recreation.
summer rec program. I don't think we pass it each year. I think
It
it's a
was just for the
standing.
summer rec, yeah.
It's
So we
standing.
should review the ones that are still up and coming, Mr.
Yeah,
Brunel, in the
that's my
next few
question.
meetings
Yep.
and go from there.
That's fine, that's my question.
Ordinance under B, ordinances and legislation, vehicle idling for the green team, which is going to be looked at also when Mary Ann gets some time, right?
No, I don't want...
No,
Oh, you don't look at that?
That's pretty
Oh,
standard.
that's so?
That's pretty standard, that's a lot of...
So is that
towns
something
have
that
it.
is a pro forma
We do
one
without
that,
green team.
is that a pro forma one, Mr. Polly, that we can,
It's from the state.
right?
Ken, do you have any issues with that?
It's a pro forma from,
Let's take a look at it.
okay. Abandoned vehicles, we carried this over.
Last we spoke, you wanted resident input discussed, so if you want to continue, we'll just have to put out the invitation.
Well, what basically constitutes an abandoned vehicle? That's the thing you have to really discuss, because it's not
Exactly.
registered, how long it's not registered. I mean, you can have a car that's registered on your property.
That looks abandoned.
That looks abandoned, has no tires on it, no transmission, but you still can register it, because if you don't register it, by New Jersey state law, even though it's not functioning, it still has to be registered. So that's a very, very complex matter that we have to talk about. Is it abandoned because it's not on a driveway? Or it doesn't have to be, it has to be other than a grass surface, right, Ken? Isn't that our ordinance reads, it can be on like stone,
Yeah.
but it can't be on grass?
No, it could be on grass, but it can't be, I think it can't be on the front lawn.
Front lawn.
Front lawn, I think.
Okay.
Well, what happens when people have paved their front lawns and they have two driveways and they're technically off the street? Is that a zoning?
Well, I think we'd have to go back and take a look at the ordinances. We've gone around the flagpole a couple of times over the years. I would have to take a look and see what the ordinances say about that at this point. We've looked at that, we've changed it a couple of times, and, I don't know where it is right now in terms of,
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Cummings.
the definition I was familiar with previously was not roadworthy. Things like having more than one or more flat tires would render a vehicle not roadworthy.
So does that make it abandoned, I guess?
That makes it an abandoned vehicle by definition, that kind of thing. And it worked extremely well. I can bring in a sample ordinance and for your review if you
Yeah,
wish.
if you don't mind, Mr. Cumming, I think that'd be a
Not
start.
a problem.
We could all sit down and review it. and-
Art, I've seen a lot of cars on the highway that I don't think are roadworthy.
Yeah, but not too many with a lot of flat tires.
No.
They don't go
Maybe-
too far.
Maybe on cops when they shoot a driver.
When they throw down the strip.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the whole idea is you can have a project car.
Right.
People can have project cars. This is fine. But, we have garages too. And maybe the project car, if it's valuable,
It goes in the
belongs in a garage.
not in the driveway like a wheelbarrow,
Right.
Yeah,
with no use to it.
agree.
So there is a distinction, and there is a series of definitions, and I'd
If
like
you
to
could bring those in,
present
Mr.
them for
Cummings,
your
that-
review, if I may.
That'd be great, Mr.
Thank you,
Cummings.
sir.
Everybody okay with that? Roads paved curb to curb carryover. I guess, one of the things that we've been hearing is that some of the newly paved streets are cracking because we're not, it's not stated correctly. We're paving from curb to curb, but we're not milling the street, the existing street from curb to curb.
Yeah,
What's that?
this was also with the utilities, when they opened up a road.
Yes.
If they did the,
The whole street rather than a
Exactly.
portion of it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think the
That's what
context
this
is,
was
because
the
it's an
intention
ordinance.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I've also asked Paul if he can estimate how much more we'll be paying per foot or per mile to do full milling as opposed to, because that'll obviously bring down what we get dollar for dollar, how many roads we can do if it adds.
Should be a minimal cost.
I just don't know, so I asked him about it.
Okay.
I mean, if it's a minimal cost, I would even sacrifice a street or two. If it's a
Well, you
major
may,
cost.
Right.
yeah,
I
may
would
have to
sacrifice a
sacrifice
street or
For
two.
20 years.
For endurance on,
Right.
on a street.
So I guess, Ken, would we have to pass an ordinance to tell utilities if they rip up any of our streets?
Well, here's the thing, I mean, you could say what you want about what the utilities have to do, but I think that they're gonna be able to argue that just because they open up a street a certain way, a certain distance, that they don't necessarily by law have to repave curb to curb. And I'll tell you what, let me do a little work on that with Paul and maybe with some of the other towns.
Well, like what I've done in the past
Yeah,
is, some of my municipalities have passed an ordinance that says that, like,
Percentage?
PSE&G would always, like, say they open up Beach Street, and they put a new gas main down, and they say, we're gonna pave half of Beach Street from curb to center line.
Right.
And there's a value to that. They give you $1 million, we set milling at $3 a square foot, we set paving at $90 a ton. And we say, hey, public service, we don't want you to mill and pave the street. We want you to give us a check for this amount.
Okay.
And then that offsets, then we come up with the other half,
other half, okay.
and we pave the street in one shot. But if we do that by some kind of resolution or ordinance,
Ordinance, yeah.
then we have it in place where we can,
Right.
have some kind of
Right.
pull.
Okay.
That's how we've done it, because, when you pave half the street, if you don't have the money in your budget to do the other half, it's still got a cold joint down the middle, it still comes out bad. But if you say, give me the money, we'll pave it ourselves during our program, it
Right,
kind of
right.
helps.
So what towns do you have it in?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, gentlemen, on that? The next one is home occupations permitted. I guess this goes back down to our friend that was here a bunch of meetings ago with the one livery vehicle, only one, no signs, internet-based, no employees.
Yeah, but I mean, you're gonna come up with, the
Different-
council's gonna come up with
different-
with the definitions of what you want to permit.
Did that, I don't recall, did that vehicle have commercial plates on it?
No.
It was a commercial plate.
No, it had.
It had to have
Yeah, it
livery.
had Omni, but it had the livery.
Oh, I'm
plates.
sorry, it didn't have any lettering on
Yeah, it
it.
didn't have a letter, that's
What
what
I
I
meant
said.
was the
Yeah,
plate
it did
itself.
not have no signage.
No
or anything.
signage, but it had,
No
it had the-
patrons come, it had the livery
No,
on the
yeah,
livery.
no patrons coming there, nobody being picked up there, and
No
no
employees
lettering.
coming there,
Yeah,
no
right,
lettering,
Exactly.
no
yeah.
signs on the house.
Right, correct.
Yeah, there was one of these ordinances that Sue had given us, and, let's see, I circled it somewhere. Something about having not more than X amount of people per hour coming into the premise. That's very restrictive. I think maybe we should do something, since it's really a can of worms, because everyone works at a house now. Most people do, they stay a couple of days home from work. What we have now would basically be, illegal to do. So we have to come up with something. But again, we don't want to have all type of different occupations in households that shouldn't be. So I think we're trying to just solve one particular problem right now for those type of businesses.
Well, I guess Sue's printed out a bunch of home ordinances in our packet. So maybe for the next meeting, we can sit down and maybe put together a list of what we think could be amended in our ordinance, getting rid of the
Some are
starter
very,
and
very
stuff like that.
restrictive.
Well, I'm not saying we have to
Yeah.
adopt them as
No.
exactly as they are, but maybe we can come up with a blend of a bunch of them and come up with a list of,
Some are very well controlled now.
anything else on that?
And so why did they come to you originally?
They
came
were
to you-
denied by the zoning officer, right?
Yeah.
So they went in front of the zoning.
No, they have to come in front of
Okay.
you to get permission. Because they were in a...
How did we know that that occupation was there? That's my
You
question.
needed something from
They were
DMV.
getting a letter. and
Oh,
They
the
got
letter.
a letter
Yeah.
from the town saying they were allowed to have that for their
Okay.
license.
They got a new
Right.
vehicle
They wouldn't give them.
and with a different plate,
Yes.
I think. And
Yeah,
they
that's-
they
Or even
didn't
if they
get a
just
letter.
renew, but even
and
if they
didn't
just
get the
renew,
letter.
they have to get a letter from me anyway, no
Okay.
matter what.
Saying that
You
the
were
business
old.
is permissible, yes, that's what it was.
You could make it specific, just
you
add
held
that
back, didn't
specifically
you?
for that particular.
You held back the letter, didn't you, or no?
No, she couldn't.
No, it had to go in front of you before they could
Oh,
go and
okay.
get it, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
You could make it just specific of that, for that particular occupation right now.
And they
That's-
can't use a
that's-
brass plate at the post office box? They need a operating address or physical
Where the
address?
vehicle's
Most of them
parked.
have a,
I think it's where the vehicle's parked.
Yeah, if they bring their vehicle home.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
Now,
think
if
she
they
meant.
are bringing the vehicle, if they work someplace else in another town, then it registers there, not here.
It was just a car in the driveway
The car in the
situation.
driveway. But I think it had livery plates, New
Yeah.
York, if I
Right.
remember.
Yeah, it was a TLC.
Yeah, TLC or whatever.
Yeah.
maybe we should just amend it just for that particular, use. That would make it simple and satisfy. There are 4 others in town like that? So,
I think there's like 4, yeah, there's not many, we don't have a lot of them.
I thought we did it. Didn't we?
No, we passed it, no, but we
No,
were
we
just saying
didn't
to
pass
amend
it.
the ordinance, so we
amend
don't
the
have to
ordinance,
keep.
just
So
do it
this
for
way
that.
it makes it.
Okay.
you know. Yeah, it probably does. I probably have a conflict of interest, but I'm already
Yeah.
I'm already down.
Right, grandfathered
There's
in
not much I
probably.
can do.
Yep.
You're right. And if there's a vote on, I will abstain from it. Matter of fact, at this point, I'll just recuse myself from all discussion on it.
All right, gentlemen, so maybe in the next few meetings, we'll look at the ordinances that Sue's provided to us.
Both ordinances.
And I think she gave us 3. There's Old Tapan, Dumont, and one other.
Everson.
Rosedale, right?
I do think, though, that, and Steve, I appreciate your comments that, to just open it up to that livery, but I think the bigger issue is there are a lot of businesses that are now run out of homes that are not, internet-based. I mean, I work from home, I have a PC, I hook it up to the internet. I mean, I'm working at home, I have a home office. Is that, I don't think,
Testimony.
I don't think we want to prevent people from doing that.
Oh, no, I'd never do that. That would be,
But,
not
you
the
know-
spirit of the law, but I think one of the ordinance talked about having, you cannot have more than 2 persons per hour
For
over
8
an
hours.
8-hour period.
Yes.
And I don't think, if you're talking about your situation, that obviously wouldn't occur, so you would be within realm. What you don't want to have is a lot of people coming to a residence on a, ongoing basis, a continuing basis.
All right, so we'll take advantage, we'll look at that in the upcoming few meetings, and we'll try to get something resolved. Last thing on the ordinance legislation is the ethics ordinance. Mr. Cassio?
Yeah, I put that back on there. We talked about it last year or the year before last. There's a lot of, sometimes there's finger pointing here and there, and we talk about what's ethical and what's unethical. Again, that's a state ordinance. We have one at the county level that we could use if we wanted to, but I guess my concern is there's a lot of people don't want to go down to the county if they have a complaint. They probably want to come local since they understand the local flavor a little bit better. And again, I just put that on there again for you to peruse and take a look at. I think it's a good idea personally. It might take some tension off of some employees and people on the dais. So just consider it.
So gentlemen, the ordinance, the chapter, that Councilman Cassio is taken from Paramus is attached, and also the May 22nd, 2017 conference meeting notes from Mr. Poller are attached for your review. So we'll have some discussion on this if you so like in the future.
So, I mean, I would just say that I think Ken raised some extremely valid points in the discussion. I understand your position, Steve. I think bringing it closer to home creates more tension than having it at a distance. I think if perhaps people don't understand how to use those other avenues like the county or the state, and maybe if they did, or maybe if, that's a concern, we tell them how or explain to them how. But I think that bringing something like that into town would certainly increase potential tensions within the public and the government, quite honestly. At least that's my feeling.
But I have an opposing view that would do just the opposite. So
Okay,
that's
understood.
And I understand your concern. So consider it, if you will, and then maybe we can talk about it next week.
Would you like to add anything, Mr. Clement?
I'm concerned, I want to look into it, I want to get some examples and learn a lot more about it.
Okay.
But I see the possibility of it just becoming another political football.
Thank you. Mr.
I'm
Bruno?
sorry.
No, thank you, no.
Yeah,
You're entitled to make your statement.
I think in my experience is when you go to the ethics board down in Jersey, I honestly think they got so much on the plate that they don't even respond. I know that firsthand, so I don't, it's a little frustrating when you think you have some ethics violations, you write letters, you send information, and it's like there's absolutely no response from them about any of it, so, we're small potatoes compared to the whole state, so I don't know how much really actually gets done with the state itself, although I think it's something that needs to be addressed for sure.
I will, like I'm in the same boat as Mr. Clement. I need to do some more research on it and really get a grasp of what we're ultimately trying to do here. So at this time, I just need to spend some more time researching it. Anything else, Mr. Cassidy?
No, that's all.
Mike, if I could just make a quick,
Sure.
lighthearted comment. I hope it's taken in a lighthearted spirit. In the last page here of notes of June 26, 2017, there's one sentence that says, Council President Bruno spoke of his concerns of trying to get aboard and how to qualify people. I share that concern. And again, to the lighthearted part, if Mr. Bruno and I agree on something, take that for what it's worth.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Financials, do we have anything, Mary Ann, we should be worried about that's upcoming that's?
Oh, I'm the CFO now. No.
No. Oh, you're the most, at 10 o'clock at night, you're the most knowledgeable of anything that.
No, I think, I was just thinking.
Is there anything that's broken that we know, other than the firehouse plumbing right now, that we know is an emergency repair, but is there anything earth-shattering?
No, if anything happens in the next 3 weeks, we're gonna have to have an emergency meeting for that, but no, we should have ample funds in the budget for most things. Like I said, I'm going to ask Ashley to speak to the bond council about getting the multi-purpose ordinance, since that's her domain. In the past, I've helped shepherd it through because we didn't have a CFO that had been here long, but she's been here long enough to get that going.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Can I,
Yes, Ms. Wood.
so Mary Ann, can you please send out that report that shows what we spent, what's encumbered, what's budgeted, so we
Yes.
can start seeing where that's at?
Sure.
And I think also, I don't think the mayor was here when we discussed the fact about looking at, or getting a list of bills to be paid prior to being paid. I don't think you were here, Peter, at the time, but,
Correct, I watched the meeting afterwards, so I'm a little familiar with it.
so the question is, what can we do?
Discussion, I'd like to maybe strike a balance to say maybe something that's not routine or something that's over a certain dollar value, or put certain, like, I can't imagine you're gonna wanna review PSE&G bills. So I'd like to have a dialogue with whoever and come up with something that, makes sense where it doesn't slow us down paying the bills extraordinarily, but, something that satisfies
Yes.
Basically,
the spirit of what we're looking to accomplish, I think.
Parameter with oversight.
Yeah.
We don't, like we said, PSC&G bill,
Right.
not so important.
Right.
Paying $4,000 for a tire for the motor.
Right.
That would be an issue.
Correct.
Well, here's the issue, well, just so you talk about that. By the time it becomes ready for payment, we're obligated to make the payment because a purchase order was issued. So maybe, rather than when it's queued up to be paid, if anything happens, it's in the earlier stage,
Okay.
before it becomes a purchase order, but then it gets, if it's a
Can we talk
requisition.
can we talk to the administration of Rivervale, because they have a system in place, they have the same form of government as we do.
Sure.
And it seems to work.
Okay.
From
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean,
people I've
I know
talked there.
Genaro well. I
So
do.
maybe we could talk to them and just feel them out of how they do it, because they have the same form we do. And they do get a bills list, and they do approve it before it's executed. And it seems they're able to process it in a timely manner. I don't
Well,
think
on a lighthearted note, speaking of which, I did just speak to Rivervale and I asked him about budget meetings. He said they only had 2 and he only went to 1. So,
Don't you feel lucky now?
oh, that's a good way to say it. So if we want to model ourselves after Rivervale, that would be wonderful. That would be
I'm
wonderful.
asking to review their,
I know,
Remember
I'm
she said
just
lighthearted.
joking, lighthearted.
yeah. He only went to 1, wow.
Did they have a municipal tax increase?
I'm not sure.
I believe they did.
Most towns do.
There you go. Thank you for coming.
Is there anything we
Did
need
you
to
want
go
to do
to
the
close?
close? Did you want to do that one issue that?
Gentlemen, do you want to talk to the
Actually, what I'd like to do is not discuss it in close, and I'll just reach out to each of you individually, because even closed minutes can then be brought public, and what I want to say isn't for public consumption necessarily, so.
So anything else, gentlemen, that we need to go into close? I don't see anything.
No.
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
So who would think
Roll call?
on a
Councilman Bruno?
Right.
Councilman Casio?
Maybe that's
Hello?
items.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
4 yeses and 1 no.
I like the fire.
Who said no?
I said, just.